Chapter 288. The giant creature that suddenly appeared was a Tibetan Mastiff. It was furry and fierce. It opened its bloody mouth and directly rushed toward Tang Zheng and the others. The girls immediately froze in place, as if they had been immobilized. They opened their mouths and screamed. Whoosh! A small white figure jumped out of Hao Dan's arms and directly rushed toward the Tibetan Mastiff.
Bang!
The Tibetan Mastiff flew out like a cannonball and hit the wall. The small white figure steadily landed on the ground, wagging its tail and looking at the ugly big guy with contempt. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. Even Tang Zheng did not have the time to react before Little White made a counterattack as smoothly as flowing water. The screams came to an abrupt end. Everyone stared at the scene in bewilderment. How could the Tibetan Mastiff fly out? It seemed that it was hit by Xiao Bai. But how could it be? Even though Yi Dingdang was experienced and knowledgeable, she couldn't find a reasonable explanation. Moreover, she had seen Xiao Bai a long time ago. She didn't have any special feelings for it. How could it be so monstrous? It was like its owner. Xiao Bai showed off his strength and squeaked twice at the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff, which had stumbled to get up, stared at Xiao Bai fiercely. Xiao Bai took small steps and leisurely walked toward the Tibetan Mastiff as if he was taking a stroll. The Tibetan Mastiff stepped back step by step. The fierceness in its eyes decreased sharply. It actually showed fear. These two guys, one big and one small, were completely different. But the Tibetan Mastiff was obviously afraid of Xiao Bai, which made the others feel that this scene was very unreal. Tang Zheng felt that it was very normal. Although more and more rich people domesticated the Tibetan Mastiff as a pet, it always maintained a wild nature in its genes. This was also the nature of most animals. It was more sensitive to danger than humans. Other people saw Xiao Bai as an ordinary puppy, but in the eyes of the Tibetan Mastiff, Xiao Bai was a powerful enemy that it dared not fight against. Therefore, every time Xiao Bai took a step forward, the Tibetan Mastiff would take a step back. Xiao Bai strolled leisurely, while the Tibetan Mastiff took a step forward. When Tang Zheng was about to stop Xiao Bai from showing off, he heard an angry shout. Who hurt my General Weiwu? There was a wound on the Tibetan Mastiff's back. Blood dyed its black fur red. This was the result of hitting the wall just now. A burly man walked out in large strides. He was incomparably furious, glaring at Tang Zheng's group. Who hurt my General Weiwu? The man stroked the head of the Tibetan Mastiff and asked sternly. Everyone subconsciously looked at Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai raised his head high, looking very proud. The man glanced at Xiao Bai, then automatically ignored it and looked at the only man in the group, Tang Zheng. Who are you? The man shouted. Before Tang Zheng could answer, the waiter had already introduced him in a trembling voice. Young Master Feng, these are the guests who have come to eat. This young Master Feng did not even look at the waiter and said arrogantly, When I speak, how can you interrupt? With that, he slapped the waiter, making it impossible for her to avoid it. With a slap, 5 finger marks appeared on the waiter's face. The waiter covered his face, tears about to fall, but he did not dare to make a sound. He stood at the side, trembling. The girls were so scared by this battle that their bodies trembled. Although they were proud sons of heaven, they were still students who had just entered the university. They had never seen such an unreasonable person. You dare to injure my General Weiwu. That means you have some skills. Forget it. My General Weiwu has not displayed his might for a long time. Today, you have the honor of seeing my General Weiwu's power. Young Master Feng said with interest. Tang Zheng had long since frowned. He was not sure who this so-called young Master Feng was, but when he looked at Yi Dingdang, she also shook her head slightly. Obviously, although she had only been in the capital for a few months, she did not know the other party's background. The capital was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. All sorts of powers were gathered here, and there were many big shots. This young Master Feng was definitely someone with a certain status. But Tang Zheng did not care. He even dared to deal with the martial sect and the Li Palace. How could he be afraid of this rich second generation? Your Tibetan Mastiff suddenly jumped out and almost hurt my companion. You don't know how to discipline your own pet, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Could it be that there is no law in the capital? Tang Zheng asked. Law? Young Master Feng was startled for a moment, then suddenly laughed out wildly. Interesting, really interesting. Today, I actually met someone who talked about the law with me. Young Master Feng's eyes were filled with ridicule as he continued, Since you are talking about the law with me, then I will take both of your arms later and grind my General Weiwu's teeth. Yi Dingdang did not say anything. Although the other party had an extraordinary background, he knew that Tang Zheng would definitely not be afraid. After all, he did not even give face to Tang Zheng back then, but she remained calm and unruffled, watching the show without the slightest bit of fear. However, the other three people were not as bold as her. They looked at each other with ugly expressions. Even Li Fangfei's face was pale white. Didn't they just come for a meal? How could they have thought that they would encounter such a big problem? What should he do now? The other party's background was not small, and he even had such a ferocious beast. They were just ordinary students. How could they be his match? This Tang Zheng was really something. What was there to show off for? At most, he would just apologize and apologize. Wasn't he courting death by being so unreasonable to a big shot? Li Fangfei was already thinking about it. If things got out of hand later, she would have no choice but to call her family for help. Li Fangfei was a native of the capital. Her family ran a small business, which was why she was able to live without worries. However, she wasn't sure if her family's relationship would be able to settle the matter in front of her. She couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have come to this kind of social gathering. He didn't expect to fall into such a stalemate. Tang Zheng's heart was slightly angered as this person was truly unreasonable. Not only did he allow his Tibetan Mastiff to act recklessly, he even wanted to take his 2 arms. His appetite was truly not ordinary. All right, my arm is right here. If you have the ability, then come and take it. However, let me remind you, I'm afraid your 2 arms will suffer a little today. Tang Zheng was not afraid at all, and instead said lightly, boasting shamelessly. I've lived for more than 20 years, and this is the most ridiculous joke I've ever heard. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I'll fulfill your wish. General Weiwu, go. Child Feng pushed the Tibetan Mastiff forward, and the Tibetan Mastiff took a few steps forward. Tang Zheng did not move at all, while Yidingdong's eyes lit up, while the other 3 girls trembled and almost screamed out loud. They were so afraid that they covered their eyes, as if they did not dare to look at the bloody scene that was about to unfold. Gigi! Xiao Bai suddenly shouted at the Tibetan Mastiff, causing it to immediately stop in its tracks. Its eyes revealed a deep sense of fear, and with a low growl, it leaped up and jumped up. However, it did not pounce on Tang Zheng, but turned and pounced on its master, Child Feng, with its bloody mouth biting down on his neck. If this bite landed, it would directly bite off the other party's neck. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. The 3 girls screamed again. Why would the Tibetan Mastiff attack its master for no reason? Had it gone crazy? Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang knew that the Tibetan Mastiff had not gone crazy, and that the instigator of all of this was Xiao Bai. Its 2 cries seemed to be in order for the Tibetan Mastiff to attack its master, and the Tibetan Mastiff did not even have the slightest ability to resist. Tang Zheng was a little surprised. He knew that Xiao Bai was not simple, but he did not expect that he could control the actions of other beasts. Child Feng was the one who was the most surprised. He had originally been waiting for the Tibetan Mastiff to pounce on Tang Zheng and bite off his 2 arms, but he realized that all of this was impossible. The Tibetan Mastiff that he had raised for a few years had actually pounced on him. Child Feng was not afraid, but instead, he was furious. A beast was a beast, and at the critical moment, he actually dared to turn around and attack. Without any hesitation, a fierce look flashed across his eyes, and with a stretch of his hands, he directly grabbed the head of the Tibetan Mastiff that was pouncing over. Roar! The Tibetan Mastiff roared crazily and struggled nonstop, impatiently wanting to bite off his neck. Child Feng grabbed its head with both hands. Facing the pet that had followed him for a few years, he did not have the slightest bit of hesitation or pity.
Gotcha.
He snapped the Tibetan Mastiff's neck in one swift motion. Tang Zheng was not surprised at all. The moment the Tibetan Mastiff counterattacked, he knew that the Tibetan Mastiff would not be able to harm this Child Feng. This was because the other party was a warrior, and his cultivation was not low either. To be able to reach the second stage of the post-celestial stage in his 20s, this was enough to show that the other party was very powerful, and his identity was not simple either. But so what? You deliberately provoked me. Can I retaliate? Tang Zheng had never thought of repaying evil with good. He believed in a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. Since the other party wanted those 2 arms, then he would return the favor. Of course, he would have to remove the other party's 2 arms as well. However, before he could react, Child Feng's reaction was extremely intense. He felt that he had lost a lot of face to actually be attacked by a pet that he had raised for a few years. He looked at Tang Zheng with an ashen face, then looked at Xiao Bai. Just like Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, he could tell that the Tibetan Mastiff's sudden betrayal was due to Xiao Bai's influence. In other words, this puppy was definitely not simple and was countless times more precious than his Tibetan Mastiff. Thus, he started to have ideas about Xiao Bai. First, he took care of Xiao Bai's master, and then Xiao Bai would naturally become his pet. This pet that was even more awesome than the Tibetan Mastiff was definitely the only one, and the others could only be envious of it in the future. Thinking of this, he was very excited. However, he had to vent his anger on this brat right now. To deal with an ordinary person, he, a second-stage post-celestial stage warrior, felt like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. However, in front of so many beauties, it was indeed a beautiful thing to display one's strength. Furthermore, there was a top-grade beauty among them, and she was even a martial artist of the 9th grade of body refining stage. He had seen countless women, and this kind of top-grade beauty was rare. Since the other party was with this brat, he could not let them go. He walked towards Tang Jing step by step, and an invisible pressure suddenly increased. Especially Li Fengfei and the other 2, they almost couldn't breathe. Their faces were pale, and they were trembling. Li Fengfei's hand had already touched the phone in her bag, and she wanted to call home for help. Seeing his roommate's terrified expression, Yi Dingding comforted him in a low voice. "Don't worry, with Tang Jing here, he won't be able to cause any big waves." His words were filled with incomparable confidence in Tang Jing. The 3 girls didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, Yi Dingding was actually not worried at all. Her heart was simply too big. Moreover, the other party's identity was illustrious. Offending such a person would not be a good thing. Before they could even think about it, Child Feng had already walked in front of Tang Jing. Tang Jing stood in front of the girls like a sturdy city wall. His tall and straight back seemed to give people a sense of security. As their eyes met, Tang Jing's eyes gradually narrowed. Chapter 289. Child Feng reached out his hand to grab Tang Jing's arm, but Tang Jing arrived first and actually grabbed onto Child Feng's arm first.
Gotcha.
Before Child Feng could react, his 2 arms were directly removed and drooped weakly on his shoulders. Both sides attacked as fast as lightning. Before the others could even see what was going on, the outcome had already been decided. Child Feng did not scream loudly, but he could not help but let out a painful groan. The veins on his forehead bulged as he stared at his opponent with his mouth agape. How could the other party be faster and more accurate than him? He was a second-stage post-celestial stage warrior, and this person was obviously no different from an ordinary person. Tang Jing glanced at him lightly and said, "I said that your 2 arms would suffer a little. I didn't go back on my word, right? Who exactly are you?" Child Feng's forehead was already drenched in cold sweat. There were not many people in the capital who dared to deal with him so brazenly. "Ordinary people," Tang Jing said indifferently. How could an ordinary person be possible? Child Feng would not believe it even if he was beaten to death, but there had never been such a fierce person in the capital. Could it be that he was a dragon crossing the river? The water in the capital was so deep, Yet a dragon crossing the river dared to be so unbridled. Other than having something to rely on, it was because he was an idiot. However, Child Feng did not know that Tang Zheng's reliance was not on anyone else but himself. Although the identity of a cultivator was different, it made him very confident. No matter what identity the other party had, he would not be afraid of anyone who dared to provoke him. Therefore, he did not care about the identity of this Child Feng at all and directly attacked. Seeing Tang Zheng's clean and efficient attack, Yi Dingdong's eyes lit up. This person's strength was not low, but Tang Zheng had removed both of his arms so quickly. Firstly, it meant that he had underestimated his opponent, and secondly, it was because Tang Zheng's strength was indeed extraordinary. The other three people's thoughts were much more complicated. Li Fengfei had just pressed a few numbers, but he had no choice but to stop and look at Tang Zheng and Child Feng in disbelief. It seemed that Tang Zheng had won. However, she wasn't happy because she knew that the grudge between the two of them would really be formed and the consequences would be unimaginable. Hao Dan and Lu Xian, on the other hand, were scared stiff by this terrifying scene. Their legs went soft and they almost fell to the ground. Luckily, Yi Dingdong's eyes were sharp and her hands were fast as she supported the two. Her eyebrows danced as she said, "How is it? I said that Tang Zheng would be fine, right?" The three of them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They had a new understanding of their roommate. Did she really not know what fear was? What's going on here? Suddenly, a woman walked out. Child Feng, how did your General Weiwu die? What's up with your arms? The woman blinked her bright eyes. She was not afraid at all. Instead, she was interested. This woman was in her 30s and had the charm of a young married woman. Her every frown and smile revealed a soul-stirring charm. The charm of Yi Dingdong and the others was overshadowed by her mature charm. Child Feng endured the pain and asked with an ashen face, "Boss Li, who exactly is this kid?" This young woman was the owner of this private restaurant, Li Hongqing. Her beautiful eyes swept across Tang Zheng's body, then paused on Yi Dingdong's face. Her face revealed a look of surprise as she said, "Child Feng, of course they are our customers. Who is this brat?" Hee, I don't know about that. Child Feng, it's impossible for me to know every customer who comes to our restaurant like the back of my hand. Li Hongqing said with a sweet smile. Boss Li, you don't mean what you say. Who doesn't know that this private restaurant is not something that ordinary people can enter? Tang Zheng's head moved. This was the place that Fourth Bro had booked to eat. He originally thought that it was just an ordinary restaurant, but he didn't expect that there would be so many unusual things. Immediately, he became curious about Zhou Yan. Thinking back to his parents' appearances, he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. However, who didn't have secrets? Therefore, he wouldn't go and get to the bottom of it. Li Hongqing only smiled but did not answer and said, "Mister, what grudges do you have with Child Feng? This small shop does not care, but this small shop has always had a rule, and that is, do not fight in the shop, so please let go of Child Feng." Yi Dingdong could not figure out Li Hongqing's background, but without a doubt, the other party was not a martial warriors and did not have any ill intentions, so he let go of Child Feng. Child Feng immediately retreated a few steps, stared fiercely at Tang Zheng, and then said to Li Hongqing, "Boss Li, since you said that you wouldn't allow people to fight in your shop, then what do you say about him injuring me this time?" Li Hongqing smiled and said, "Then I don't know who made the first move, but if this mister made the first move, then I will definitely keep him and give you an explanation, Child Feng." Child Feng's expression changed slightly and said, "Of course he made the first move." Yi Dingdong curled his lips and said, "A grown man is not ashamed to lie. There are so many pairs of eyes watching here. Everyone can clearly see who made the first move." Li Hongqing smiled and said, "Child Feng, it seems that this young lady has a different opinion. Who does she think she is? Boss Li, do you believe her words, or do you believe mine? You can weigh it yourself." Li Hongqing looked left and right, as if she was deep in thought. Tang Zheng looked at the lady boss with interest. She was not a martial warrior, but this child phone was so afraid of her, which meant that her identity was not ordinary. Maybe there was some big shot behind her, and from the looks of it, this private restaurant was really not ordinary. Child phone, as a woman, I am more willing to believe in women. Li Hongqing said solemnly. You. Child Feng's expression suddenly changed. All right, Boss Li, I will remember. Child phone, take care. Remember to visit our shop again next time. Seeing the child phone drooping his arms and angrily leaving, Li Hongqing acted as if she did not see his anger and said enthusiastically, Pa pa pa. Yi Dingdang lightly clapped her hands and praised. The lady boss is truly bold. I've made a fool of myself. You're here to take care of my business, but you've been disturbed by this unpleasant matter. I'm really sorry. Today's meal is on the house. Consider it my apology. Li Hongqing took the initiative to say. Everyone had already guessed that the cost of a meal here would not be small. She had actually given them a lot of face by waiving the bill. The lady boss is truly a forthright person. If there is a chance in the future, I would like to come and sit for a while more. Yi Dingdang said from the bottom of her heart. Li Hongqing laughed. Welcome. A beauty like Miss is pleasing to the eye just by looking at her. I also hope to benefit from your light. Why is it so lively? Suddenly, Sinosaurus's voice sounded, and the follow-up troops arrived. Zhou Yan asked, Why are you all standing here and not going to the private room? Li Hongqing looked at the few of them and said with a smile, Welcome, everyone. I am the boss here. I will bring you to the private room. Boss? A strange look flashed across Zhou Yan's face, but it instantly returned to normal. Li Hongqing looked deeply at Zhou Yan, then brought the few of them to the private room. Before leaving, she looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. Everyone gathered together, and the girls started to talk about what happened just now. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect so many things to happen during a meal. However, when they heard that the lady boss was free of charge, they were extremely excited, especially when Sinosaurus bluntly said that when they came in, they were worried that their wallet would not be full enough and that they would not be able to leave after eating, causing everyone to burst out in laughter. As for the crowd, they were not too surprised by Tang Zheng's clean and efficient attack. After all, they had seen Tang Zheng's massacre of the terrorists, so today's attack was nothing. However, Zhou Yan still advised in a low voice, Lao San, the capital is not like the border area in the west. There are crouching tigers and hidden dragons here, especially this private restaurant. I heard that there are often many rich and noble people patronizing it. Today's child phone. I'm afraid he won't let this go easily. Different situations call for different measures. Don't you know my habits? Tang Zheng was not afraid in the slightest. Zhou Yan laughed. OL3, you are very capable. I was overthinking it. However, I heard that this boss Li is very mysterious. This time she actually took the initiative to entertain you. It is indeed very rare. Tang Zheng looked at Zhou Yan meaningfully. In the past, he had really ignored this fourth brother. He had originally thought that he was just a child of an ordinary official's family, but now it seemed that he had underestimated him. OL4, this private restaurant is not that easy to book. You have quite a bit of power. Zhou Yan chuckled. Isn't my dad a civil servant? Actually, I've only heard of this restaurant before. Today, I've come to broaden my horizons. Not long after, a large table of delicacies was served. The dishes looked, smelled, and tasted good, especially the taste, which made one's tongue salivate. Yi Dingding knocked on the red wine glass, indicating that he had something to say. Everyone quietened down, and Yi Dingding coughed lightly and said, This time, we are basking in the light of these handsome guys, coming to such a grand place to eat. So in order to express our gratitude, I suggest that everyone toast first. It's our honor to know so many beauties. Come, everyone cheers. Sinosaurus said as he raised his wine glass. Now that everyone is familiar with each other, I will say a few more words. If anyone sees eye to eye with each other today, then don't be courteous and make your move as soon as possible. Especially the few handsome guys. Look at how beautiful these few beauties are. If you don't take the initiative, then you won't have a share. Yi Dingdang said generously. Haha, since great beauty says so, then we won't be polite. Everyone chatted and laughed. The atmosphere was warm, and the feeling of unfamiliarity between them gradually disappeared. With Feng Yong and Sinosaurus livening up the atmosphere, this meal was truly enjoyable for both the guests and the host. Li Fengfei would look at Zhou Yan from time to time, and the two of them even clinked cups a few times. It seemed that she had taken a liking to Zhou Yan, and Gao Daji seemed to have taken a fancy to Lu Xian. Feng Yong also had some gains, and was actually chatting happily with the cute Hao Dan. Wang Shiji had come with a learning attitude today, and did not lock onto a target, so he was happy and harmonious with everyone. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang clinked glasses a few times, and in the end, Yi Dingdang directly pushed Feng Yong away and sat beside Tang Zheng, and said in a low voice, "That child Feng and Boss Li are definitely not simple. Do you want me to get my father to investigate?" Tang Zheng said calmly, "There's no need. If that child Feng wants to find trouble with me, I believe that he will be the one to regret it in the end." Yo, you're very confident. However, I still have to remind you that the capital is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It's better to be careful. Tang Jing muttered to himself for a moment, then said, "Then investigate this lady boss." Yi Dingdang blinked his eyes and joked, "Are you interested in this kind of young woman?" Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't let your imagination run wild. I just feel that this lady boss is very interesting. Moreover, she favors you a lot and doesn't pay attention to me." Tang Jing guessed wrong. It was not that Li Hongqing did not pay attention to him, but that he could not figure out his background. When Li Hongqing returned to his office and understood the cause and effect of the matter, he became especially interested in Tang Jing. Chapter 290. Li Hongqing's investigation of Tang Zheng was superficial. When Tang Zheng and the others left the private restaurant, she did not find out anything. She only knew that he was a new student at Yenching University. Sogu, 360, Soso searched JDXS to download novels for free, but for Yi Dingdang, she did recognize him at first glance, because she did not have the words "blame yourself" in her past life. I really don't understand this group of profligate sons. But then again, aren't you one of them? No wonder you know them so well. TSK, don't talk nonsense. How could I be someone like them? Moreover, I started out halfway. What kind of profligate son am I? Yi Dingdang curled his lips and said unhappily, "GA." While they were talking, a commercial car stopped in front of the two of them, blocking their path forward. A few fierce-looking people jumped down. At the same time, the few people behind them quickly surrounded them. They attacked from the front and back, leaving the two of them with no way out. "Come with us." A few of them actually took out their pistols and pointed them at the two of them, as they said coldly. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. He dared to use a gun on the streets of Beijing. It seemed that this child Feng was not an ordinary person. The two of them were bold and were not afraid at all. However, they said generously, "Let's go, lead the way." Tang Zheng was confident that he could get rid of them before the other party opened fire, so of course he would not be afraid. Yi Dingdang even looked like she was watching a good show. The person was stunned for a moment, as if he did not expect Tang Zheng to be so easy to catch. He said coldly, "At least you know what's good for you. Get in the car." The two of them were escorted into the car and then roared away. Along the way, a few people kept their guns aimed at the two of them, afraid that they would make a move. After all, they had been told that the two of them were not ordinary people. Xiao Bai opened her eyes wide and curiously watched the scene. She opened her mouth, as if she wanted to spit out fire and turn these people into charcoal at any time. Yi Dingdang glanced at the little fellow from time to time. The scene of it dealing with the Tibetan Mastiff was still vivid in her mind, making Yi Dingdang extremely interested in it. It was just that Tang Zheng refused to tell her where it came from even if she was beaten to death. He only said that it was a small dog, leaving Yi Dingdang helpless. However, in her heart, she did not believe this kind of lies. The MPV stopped at the back door of a private club. They walked in from the back door, took the elevator to the 5th floor, and stopped outside a door. Before the door opened, Tang Zheng heard a faint roar coming from inside. I will definitely hide that brat and feed him to the dogs. He dares to go against me in the capital. This kind of person must die. This voice belonged to the arrogant child Feng from before. Young Master Feng, we want to see just who dares to touch the earth on top of our heads. Another person said, yes, young Master Feng, we brothers will support you. We will definitely make this brat unable to return. To dare to provoke the 4 young masters of Beijing, he must have eaten a leopard's guts. Tang Zheng looked at Yi Dingdang and asked in a low voice, what are the 4 young masters of Beijing? Yi Dingdang curled her lips and scoffed, I don't dare to be interested in these hedonistic circles at all. They are all a group of people relying on their parent shadow to bully others, so I don't know what the 4 young masters of Beijing is. Don't speak. A few big men shouted angrily to stop him. Young Master Feng, don't be angry. Later, we'll play with that guy to vent our anger. A woman's voice advised. Dong dong. The big men knocked on the door. The room quietened down and then young Master Feng's voice sounded. Come in. With a creak, the door opened, and Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were escorted in. Immediately, the room quietened down, and everyone's gazes turned to Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. Young Master Feng was the first to laugh out loud. Haha brat, we meet again. This time, you're dead for sure. The others also looked at Tang Zheng in ridicule, but after a while, they looked at Yi Dingdang, and their eyes lit up. These hedonistic young masters were very picky with their mouths, and had already seen countless beauties, but characters like Yi Dingdang were extremely rare. Young Master Feng, your luck is not bad. There's actually such a beauty. Although you were injured this time, you still earned it. Hee. Someone said with a smile of exultation. Young Master Feng's gaze also fell on Yi Dingdang's body for a while, not concealing the desire in his eyes. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang calmly looked at this group of people. There were a total of 10 of them, and without a doubt, they were all wearing famous brands and were arrogant. Tang Zheng even saw a few female movie stars who often appeared on TV beside the mechanical man. These female movie stars did not have their usual high and mighty appearance. Instead, they were extremely respectful towards the hedonistic young masters beside them. Tang Zheng was greatly disappointed, so he did not pay too much attention to it. However, he recognized a familiar person in the crowd, and Yi Dingdang also recognized this person. Yi Meiyu. Yi Meiyu also looked at the 2 of them in surprise, but she did not say anything. She did not rush to speak, but instead stared at the 2 of them as if she was watching a good show. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang did not say anything, but they had no choice but to re-examine this young Master Feng. Since Yi Meiyu was in this circle, it meant that this young Master Feng's family was part of the Ye family's circle. Yi Dingdang did not have much of a sense of identity with the Ye family in the capital, so even if young Master Feng really had something to do with the Ye family, she would pretend that she did not know. As a result, due to the tacit understanding between the 2 sides, no one knew Yi Dingdang's identity. They only looked at this beautiful girl with envy. Tang Zheng looked at young Master Feng without batting an eyelid. His arm was bandaged, and although Tang Zheng's 2 strikes did not injure his foundation, he still needed to rest for a few days. It seems like the lesson from before is not deep enough. You still want to taste something even more painful. Tang Zheng said indifferently. Hearing that, Child Feng said, Damn, you dare to be so arrogant in our territory? Let me tell you, with that woman Li Hongqing obstructing me earlier, I couldn't do anything to you. Now that you're here, I can kill you in a matter of minutes. Oh, looks like you're so afraid of Li Hongqing. So you're not that powerful? You're even afraid of an ordinary woman, Tang Zheng said. The expressions of the others were very interesting as they looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Young Master Feng finally laughed out loud. I can finally confirm that you are not some big shot. You actually don't even know Li Hongqing's background, and you dare to come to the capital to fool around. It's not an exaggeration to say that you are an idiot. Tang Zheng was slightly startled. Was this Li Hongqing that powerful? The others also looked at him with ridicule and said, This brat really thinks of himself as a dragon crossing the river. The capital is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. This kind of dragon crossing the river is the fastest to die. It can't even make a splash. Yes, you don't even know Li Hongqing's name. You really are a nobody. Looking at the looks of disdain on everyone's faces, Tang Zheng was truly curious about Li Hongqing.
Just what was so magical about this woman?
You don't know, and I don't have the obligation to tell you. Ask the brats below when you go to hell. Young Master Feng's face revealed a ruthless expression and said sternly, "Break his legs first to prevent him from escaping, then I'll slowly play with him." The few brawny men beside him pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang bang. 2 bullets directly shot out of the chamber. After the bullets passed through the silencer, they only made a slight sound. Tang Zheng hugged Yi Dingdang, then quickly dodged to the side. His figure flashed, and with a stretch of his hand, he had already grabbed onto the big-sized man's wrist. The pistol flew out of his hand, and Tang Zheng snatched the pistol and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang bang, with a series of muffled sounds, a few big men were immediately shot and fell to the ground, crying out miserably. Tang Zheng immediately kicked the pistol away and looked at the crowd with a murderous look. This was the capital. Tang Zheng did not kill them, but the threat of these few big-sized men had been completely removed. He turned the gun and aimed it at young Master Feng. They never thought that Tang Zheng would be able to successfully counterattack under the gun. Young Master Feng was also stunned for a moment. He was a second-stage post-celestial stage martial artist, so it was not easy for him to be invincible in such a close-range battle. Moreover, from the very beginning, he did not place enough importance on Tang Zheng. This was because he thought that the other party's strength was about the same as his, and that he was only lucky to injure him when he was not paying attention. But now, the strength that Tang Zheng displayed showed that this was not the case, but as one of the 4 young masters of the capital, how could young Master Feng admit defeat just like that? Before Tang Zheng could even shoot, young Master Feng quickly took a small step back, revealing a person who had been standing behind him the entire time. Chapter 291. Once the person behind the scene was revealed, Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang both felt a chill in their hearts. This was because this person was also a martial artist, and an expert at that. Even from a distance of a few meters, they could clearly feel his surging inner strength. Sogu, 360. Soso searched JDXS to download novels for free. Child Feng revealed a complacent look and said, "Now you know what it means to be afraid, right? Humph. You dare to cause trouble in my territory? Today, I will teach you how to write the word death." When the others saw Tang Zheng knock down a few gun-wielding men in an instant, they were shocked, and some of them even panicked. After all, these hedonistic sons were not all warriors like Child Feng. They were basically ordinary people, and most of them were unwilling to suffer the hardships of practicing martial arts. Due to Child Feng's family reasons, the men in his family had to practice martial arts. Even if he was unwilling, it would be useless. However, when they saw the person behind Child Feng walk out, they all heaved a sigh of relief. They had actually forgotten about such an important person. With him here, this brat was simply insignificant. Tang Zheng stared at the other party. From the other party's body, he could feel the unique aura of a pre-celestial stage expert. He had already interacted with many pre-celestial stage experts, so this feeling was very sharp. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. These hedonistic sons were really annoying. They weren't very strong themselves, but the family behind them was too strong. Just like that Qin Lao who had protected Song Yu back then, he was a 5th-stage pre-celestial stage expert. This middle-aged man did not have the calmness of Qin Lao that was as deep as an abyss, but he gave off a sharp feeling that made one's heart palpitate. Yi Dingdang said in a low voice, "This person is very powerful. We might not be his match." Tang Zheng obviously knew this, but if Child Feng wanted his life, could it be that he would kneel down and beg for mercy, begging the other party to let him go? Although Yi Dingdang had revealed her identity, this battle would definitely not start, but Yi Dingdang had a look of watching a good show, so how could the proud Yi Dingdang be willing to reveal her identity? Didn't this mean that he was afraid of death? In fact, Yi Dingdang was very similar to Tang Zheng. They both believed that victory was won with their own fists. No matter how strong the enemy was, they would not admit defeat, let alone use their identities to scare others. Therefore, when facing this innate master, neither of them retreated. It was as if the soles of their feet were rooted to the ground as they stared at each other, without moving an inch. Raging Inferno, take him down for me, and then I'll slowly torture him to death. Child Foam ordered sternly. Raging Inferno was the name of this pre-celestial stage expert. He was an expert that Child Feng's family had roped in, and was in charge of protecting Child Foam. However, everyone in the capital knew the name of the Child Foam, and no one dared to deal with him. Thus, the Raging Inferno did not follow him closely. And this time, encountering Tang Zheng was a complete accident, which was why Child Foam had suffered so much at the hands of Tang Zheng. Raging Inferno knew that he had failed in his duty, so when he saw Tang Zheng, he revealed his sharpness. He was determined to take down Tang Zheng and show his face in front of the Child Foam. Of course, although he could not see through Tang Zheng's cultivation level from the way Tang Zheng attacked just now, he could tell that Tang Zheng's strength was far inferior to his, so he was full of confidence. Raging Inferno walked towards Tang Zheng with large strides, like a hunter facing his prey, displaying extreme confidence. Tang Zheng did not hesitate to pull the trigger. A stream of bullets poured out, covering the sky and covering the earth as they shot towards his opponent. His shots were not aimlessly fired, but shot towards Raging Inferno, covering all the fatal points on his opponent's body. This person was much more powerful than the few men from before. Tang Zheng had trained with firearms in the army, and even though he was not proficient, he was still an expert. His hands were steady and careful, and he was not to be outdone by many veterans who had trained with guns for many years. These bullets whistled through the air, but there was not much fire. He pushed his palms forward.
Boom.
A wave of air surged out, and the bullets shot out to the side, shooting into the surrounding walls. This was the difference between people. Although Tang Zheng was not afraid of this kind of bullet, he would not take it head-on like this. Instead, he would dodge. However, as a pre-celestial martial artist, Raging Inferno was obviously more skilled. He directly used an even more gorgeous move to counterattack, causing the eyes of others to light up. Especially this group of hedonistic young masters. Many of them actually whistled excitedly. This kind of explosive scene was rare. It was much more explosive than the gorgeous special effects in movies, and it was easier to make one's blood boil. Tang Zheng's blood could not boil at all. The moment the other party made a move, Tang Zheng was certain that the other party was really a pre-celestial martial artist. Tang Zheng did not think that he was a match for a pre-celestial martial artist, so he took advantage of this gap and retreated without hesitation, directly knocking open the door and retreating into the corridor at the same time as Yi Dingdang. He did not want to escape, but to fight in a wider area. Protect yourself, Tang Zheng said to Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang's expression changed slightly. She nodded and did not say a word as she watched Tang Zheng retreat towards the end of the corridor, while Raging Inferno chased after him relentlessly. The others also rushed out and watched the intense battle without blinking. Yi Meiyu even looked at Yi Dingdang with interest. Originally, she thought that Tang Zheng was an insignificant and poor brat, but now it seemed that this brat actually had some skills, but it was limited to this. After all, Yi Meiyu had never lacked warriors since she was young, so she knew that compared to personal strength, external strength was more important. As a result, he did not think highly of Tang Zheng, and instead looked at Yi Dingdang with disdain. This wild girl who suddenly came back from the outside wanted to compete with him for a position in the Ye family. This time I'll get rid of you first. The others did not know about Yi Meiyu's sinister intentions, and Yi Dingdang did not care either. He nervously watched the battle between Tang Zheng and Raging Inferno, and also kept a distance from the others, preventing them from sneaking an attack on her. The strong chi wave made it so that no one dared to approach, and they could only watch from afar. Tang Zheng fought and retreated, and had already retreated to the end of the corridor, and below him was the stairwell. Everyone thought in disdain. A guy who only knew how to run away, I thought he was very powerful. Child Feng's face revealed joy, but also a bit of malevolence. He complacently said to the people beside him, I already said that this brat is nothing to be afraid of. A small river dragon wanting to cause a big wave in the capital is simply wishful thinking. Child Feng is right. Child Feng is one of the 4 young masters of the capital. This brat has eyes but does not recognize Mount Hai. Offending you, Child Feng, is courting death. Someone agreed. Yes, Child Feng. After this battle, your reputation will definitely increase greatly. You might even suppress Yan Luyan and become the head of the 4 young masters of the capital. When Child Feng heard the title of the head of the 4 young masters of the capital, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy. It was obvious that he had been admiring this title for a long time. Yi Meiyu glanced at Child Feng without leaving a trace, then curled her lips and thought in disdain. You dare to become the head of the 4 young masters of the capital. You really overestimate yourself. Is Yan Luyan someone you can stand shoulder to shoulder with? If it wasn't for the fact that Yan Luyan already had an engagement, I would have chased after him. How could I have come to hang out with you? Child Feng did not know what Yi Meiyu was thinking, otherwise, he would definitely fly into a rage. Yi Dingdang was standing not far away and clearly heard this series of flattery. His heart moved and he was secretly surprised. This Child Feng is actually someone who is as famous as Yan Luyan. Could he be someone from the 4 great families of the capital? The 4 great families of the capital were the Yan, Song, Chu, and Yi families, and Yan Luyan was a member of the Yan family. If this Child Feng is a member of the 4 great families, could he be a member of the Chu family? Yi Dingding thought to himself. After coming to the capital, he did not deliberately try to understand the various powers, and these were all news that he would occasionally hear. Amongst them, Yan Luyun's great name was like thunder to his ears, and was often mentioned. It was said that he was the most outstanding person in the younger generation, even more outstanding than Song Yu, who Yi Xuanji had his eyes on. Furthermore, Yan Luyan was extremely legendary. Although his family background was illustrious, his ability was outstanding, and he was talented. The fiancé he found for himself was an ordinary person. This ordinary person was not a natural beauty and was only slightly above average. However, Yan Luyan was deeply fond of her and had set aside all sorts of difficulties to get engaged to her. This was simply a real-life Cinderella story. Back then, the news of Yan Luyun's engagement had caused many young ladies of the rich and powerful families to cry until their eyes turned red. Of course, this also made many ordinary girls who heard of this matter envious and jealous. Why didn't such a thing happen to them? Although Yi Dingdang had never seen Yan Luyan before, he was filled with admiration for this kind of person. This was a true man with iron bones. This Child Feng still wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with Yan Luyan. It was simply wishful thinking. For the Chu clan to have such a disciple, it's truly a shame. You still have the nerve to come out and embarrass yourself. Yi Dingdang cursed in his heart, and then looked at Yi Meiyu and thought, no wonder the capital has a bad impression of her, hanging out with this kind of person. What kind of ghost can there be in the evaluation? This raging inferno is still a pre-celestial stage expert. Tang Zheng is definitely not his match. Then what should we do? Could it be that I have to watch him get killed? No, absolutely not. Yi Dingdong's thoughts raced as he thought of a way to deal with this situation. Tang Zheng was also thinking of a way to deal with this situation. He had already received a few moves from his opponent, causing his blood to tremble, and he was almost injured. However, he knew that he could not hold on for too long. Seeing that he had already retreated to the stairwell and that the other's line of sight was unavoidably blocked, he had an idea and said in a low voice, Xiaobai, when I take a few more steps back, you will spit fire. Xiaobai had already continued to rage, baring his teeth at the raging inferno. If not for the fact that he remembered Tang Zheng's reminder that he could not casually spit fire, he would have already spat fire at the raging inferno, turning him into a true raging inferno. Now that he had received the order, Xiaobai's blood-red eyes gradually lit up, as if he was staring at his prey, staring at the raging inferno like a tiger eyeing its prey. Tang Zheng retreated along the stairs. The raging inferno was like a maggot in his bones, quickly following him, determined to take down Tang Zheng. Because the Child Feng had given the order to take down the opponent and kill the opponent, the raging inferno had not used its ultimate move, which put a layer of shackles on the raging inferno. As a result, Tang Zheng fought and retreated, and had persisted for so long without being defeated. If the raging inferno directly used its killing move, then Tang Zheng's situation would be even more dangerous. Tang Zheng glanced at the corridor, and after confirming that no one else could see him, he bellowed, "Fire breath!"
Boom.
Xiao Bai opened her mouth, and a stream of flames immediately shot out, heading straight for the raging inferno. When the raging inferno heard the sound of spitting fire, it did not understand what was going on, and thought that the other party would use some kind of hidden weapon. However, it saw a ray of fire shoot up into the sky, and then he was immediately enveloped by the flames. He turned pale with fright and shouted, anxiously circulating his energy to protect his body. The flames blocked his line of sight, and he did not notice that at some point in time, a bow without an arrow had appeared in Tang Zheng's hand. Tang Zheng pulled the bowstring and released his fingers.
Wow.
Chapter 292. The raging fire really turned into a ball of flames and flew backwards from the stairwell. The others only had time to hear a miserable scream, and then a huge ball of fire flew out. Net fire? How could there be fire? Everyone was confused. Who was this fireman? Was it that brat or Raging Fire? No, it was definitely not Raging Fire. He was a pre-celestial stage expert. Moreover, this flaming man landed heavily on the ground, causing sparks to fly everywhere. He did not move at all. How could he be a pre-celestial stage expert? It could only be that brat. Even Yi Dingdang could not help but think so. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Actually, she had already decided to call Yi Tianlei and ask him to save Tang Zheng. However, she did not expect that before she could even make the call, such a strange change had occurred in the battle, and a person had turned into a flaming man. Was this really Tang Zheng? She did not dare to continue thinking. Her hand that was holding the phone couldn't help but tremble. Her eyes instantly turned red, and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. Seeing her on the verge of tears and clenching her teeth, Yi Meiyu's face revealed a look of joy. Haha, this time your little lover has been burned to death. This is great. Who told you, a wild girl, to come back to the capital and fight with me? Because Child Feng and the rest were also overjoyed. Child Feng could not help but shout, "Raging Fire, good job." However, the cheers stopped abruptly. A person walked out from the stairwell and stood in front of the burning man. He stood in front of everyone. Immediately, the air seemed to have frozen, and only the crackling sound of the flames could be heard. Tang Zheng also felt very lucky. Just now, he had used Xiao Bai to spit out fire to disturb the opponent's mind and vision, but he did not think that this would be enough to kill a pre-celestial martial artist. Therefore, he did not hesitate to add on an attack, using the heaven-shocking bow to shoot out an arrow that accurately hit the opponent's chest. At that moment, Tang Zheng even heard the sound of bones shattering. It had to be known that the heaven-shocking bow was a divine weapon that could cause a demon god's body to explode. Catching a pre-celestial martial artist off guard was indeed enough to take his life, and the facts had proven this point. Looking at the motionless Lai Hua on the ground, Tang Zheng knew that his fatal wound was not the flame, but the arrow. Of course, at this moment, he had already put away the heaven-shocking bow. The heaven-shocking bow was too shocking. He definitely could not casually reveal it. As if he had seen a ghost, Child Feng opened his mouth wide, as if his throat was tightly gripped by someone. He stared at Tang Zheng with wide eyes and muttered to himself, "Impossible. How can you kill Raging Inferno? He is a pre-celestial martial artist. How can you be his match?" However, everything before his eyes was a fact. Raging Inferno had indeed failed, and had paid the price of his life. Tang Zheng walked towards Child Feng, causing the others to subconsciously retreat, but Child Feng's legs felt as if they were filled with lead. He wanted to escape, but found that his legs did not listen to him at all. The shock that this scene brought to him was simply too strong. Yi Meiyu was as shocked as him. She did not retreat and looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. How could this brat be so powerful? How could Yi Dingdang's lover be so powerful? Unfair. Although Yi Dingdang was also filled with doubts, his eyes lit up.
Hero.
Tang Zheng's scene was simply too heroic, too mighty. Her heart was trembling with excitement, and the anxious look on her face that was on the verge of tears disappeared without a trace. If not for the inconvenience of her legs, she would have immediately pounced into Tang Zheng's embrace. Tang Zheng walked in front of Child Feng. The two of them were of similar height, and when their eyes met, Child Feng saw a gaze that he would never forget for the rest of his life. This gaze was abnormally cold, without the slightest bit of pity, only endless killing intent. Just by looking at it, it was as if he was in a world of ice and snow. Child Feng twitched his facial muscles with difficulty and asked, "What are you doing? What do you think I'm going to do?" Tang Zheng reached out with both hands and immediately grabbed onto the other party's two arms. Child Feng immediately screamed in shock. "You can't kill me. I am the eldest young master of the Chu family, Chu Xiaofeng. If you kill me, the Chu family will not let you off." Tang Zheng did not know what the Chu family was, and did not care about what the Chu family was. "Since you dare to kill me, then I will dare to kill you." It was that simple. Tang Zheng had always followed such a simple logic, and did not want to waste time with the other party. Exerting force with his arm, Chu Xiaofeng's arm that was originally helping with the bandage immediately twisted at a strange angle.
Kacha.
The bones at the elbow joint were forcefully broken. The crisp sound of breaking caused everyone's teeth to chatter and their faces to turn pale. From Tang Zheng's unhesitatingly cold gaze, they really felt a wave of killing intent rushing towards them. In front of this person, the identity that they used to think of as invincible was worthless. In front of this person, they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They really wanted to shout for help, but the people on this floor had all been cleaned up. Furthermore, no matter how big of a commotion there was, no one below would come to disturb them. This was something that had been arranged beforehand, and no one dared to disobey the orders of this group of silkpants. Therefore, they could only watch helplessly as Tang Zheng made his move. These people's family backgrounds were generally not as good as Chu Xiaofeng's. Usually, they would follow him around to strengthen their momentum and thus try to get closer to the Chu family. But this time, Chu Xiaofeng was attacked right in front of them, yet they were powerless to do anything. Then, all of their previous wishful thinking would be for naught. They wanted to cry, but had no tears, but Yi Meiyu was secretly delighted. Her originally dejected eyes gradually lit up as she thought to herself, "Hurry up and kill Chu Xiaofeng. As long as you kill him, you will definitely attract the revenge of the Chu family. At that time, no one will be able to protect you anymore. Haha, Yi Dingdang will definitely cry to death." Although Yi Dingdang did not know Yi Meiyu's sinister intentions, but seeing that Tang Zheng really wanted to kill Chu Xiaofeng, she was shocked and quickly shouted, "Tang Zheng, don't kill him." Tang Zheng subconsciously stopped, turned his head to look at Yi Dingdang, and asked curiously, "Why?" "He's a member of the Chu family. Killing him will be very troublesome. The Chu family is one of the 4 great families in the capital," Yi Dingdang quickly explained. The 4 great families of the capital? Tang Zheng did not have any concept of this, but looking at Yi Dingdang's nervous expression, he could guess how powerful it was. However, he was even more aware of the vengeful nature of these silk pants. Back then, Huang Xiang was also like this. If he let the tiger return to the mountain, he didn't dare guarantee that Chu Xiaofeng wouldn't continue to deal with him in desperation. Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes and saw Tang Zheng's worry and quickly said, "Chu Xiaofeng, listen, if you want revenge, then come and find the Ye family. I am Yi Dingdang, and this is my fiancé. If you have the guts, then come and find the Ye family." Ye family? Everyone felt dizzy. Why did the Ye family come out again? This beauty was actually a member of the Ye family. Yi Dingdang, they seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. The smart people had already remembered that Yi Dingdang was Yi Tianlei's daughter. After Yi Tianlei returned to the Ye family, he was in the limelight. Many people knew that the abandoned son of the Ye family had now become a strong competitor for the next head of the Ye family. Immediately, everyone looked at Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng in a different light. They originally thought that they were dragons that crossed the river without any foundation, but now they knew that they had a big backer behind them. Moreover, it was a backer that did not lose out to the Chu clan. No wonder they were so arrogant. Although Chu Xiaofeng was usually arrogant, he was not an idiot. When he heard the other party's identity, he knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. He was not afraid of the Ye family, but the Ye family was not afraid of the Chu family either. Both sides were on par with each other, so he could be considered to have suffered a loss this time. His family would not attack the Ye family for such a small matter. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel regret and hatred. He looked at Yi Meiyu with eyes filled with hatred. Since she was a member of the Ye family, why didn't Yi Meiyu remind him earlier? That way, he could have resolved the enmity from the very beginning.
There was no need to go to this step.
Not only did he lose an expert, he also lost a lot of face. If this were to spread out in the future, he would probably be laughed at to death. Yi Meiyu, you bitch. Your heart is vicious. During this period of time, you spent so much effort to hang out with Laozi, so it turns out that you were digging a hole for Laozi. Then you even pushed Laozi. How ruthless. Chu Xiaofeng thought fiercely. Yi Meiyu looked at Chu Xiaofeng's eyes, and her heart trembled. She immediately understood the look in his eyes, and her heart trembled. That look of hatred made her flustered. All her efforts during this period of time had gone down the drain. Yi Meiyu's goal of hanging out with Chu Xiaofeng was not simple. She just wanted to hang on to Chu Xiaofeng and then marry into the Chu family. This way, her position in the Ye family would quickly rise, and this would be beneficial for her father when he competed for the position of patriarch of the Ye family in the future. Back then, when Yi Xuanji had no hope of breaking through to the great master realm, he thought of marrying into the Song family. Yi Meiyu wanted to fight for this spot, but her reputation was not good and Song Yi did not like her, so in the end, she decided on Yi Dingdang. Later on, Yi Xuanji successfully broke through to the great master realm, and the crisis of the Ye family was temporarily resolved. Yi Xuanji followed his agreement with Tang Zheng and cancelled the engagement between Yi Dingdang and Song Yu. This caused the relationship between the Song and Yi families to become subtle, and it was no longer as strong as before. Yi Meiyu's thoughts were lively. After knowing that she had no hope of marrying into the Song family, she turned her attention to the Chu family. The young master of the Chu family, Chu Xiaofeng, was also a standard playboy with countless affairs, but Yi Meiyu did not care, as this was instead compatible with her usual licentious habits. Therefore, after interacting with Chu Xiaofeng for a few days, the relationship between the two of them improved by leaps and bounds, and they were now a pair. If things went smoothly, it was very likely that they would get married in the future, and at that time, it would be a marriage between the Yi and Chu families, and both sides would benefit from it. Of course, the one who benefited the most was Yi Meiyu. However, all of this had collapsed at this moment today. From Chu Xiaofeng's venomous gaze, it could be seen that he had imagined Yi Meiyu to be on the same side as Yi Dingdang, and that both sides were here to trick him today. Yi Meiyu wanted to cry, but she had no way to explain. Her heart was filled with anger as she stared at Yi Dingdang hatefully. Her perfect plan was about to succeed, but it was Yi Dingdang who ruined her plans again and again. Seeing Chu Xiaofeng's venomous gaze, Yi Dingdang did not explain, nor did she have the mood to explain. Ever since she returned to the Ye family in the capital, Yi Dingdang had been targeting her. If she could ruin her plans this time, Yi Dingdang would be secretly happy. Chu Xiaofeng, remember what I said just now. If you want revenge, then come to the Ye family. We will accompany you to the end. Tang Zheng, let's go. After Yi Dingdang finished speaking, he immediately held onto Tang Zheng's hand. Tang Zheng felt as if he had just woken up from a dream. He was shocked by Yi Dingdang's powerful words just now. When did he become Yi Dingdang's fiancé? Furthermore, he had made it public in front of so many people. Wouldn't that mean that he was going to confirm this identity? One had to know that this was just a fake identity that he had created to save her. He felt a soft palm in his hand and subconsciously looked towards Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang was winking at him, and he understood that it was better to leave this place first. He held Yi Dingdang's hand and walked downstairs, out of the clubhouse. Yi Dingdang heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing that Tang Zheng was still in a daze, she quickly explained, "Just now it was a temporary measure. If I didn't say that and push the blame onto the F family, then the Chu family would take revenge on you. This way, you would be in a very passive position." Chapter 293. Tang Zheng was very moved by Yi Dingdang's painstaking efforts and said sincerely, "Thank you. Fairy Search, download a novel for free." Yi Dingdang revealed a smile and said, "Let's go to the Ye family now. We must tell them about this matter." Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Although he was very reluctant to see Xuanji, since this matter involved the Ye family, he naturally had to make a trip. The two of them took a car to the Ye family's courtyard house. As soon as they entered, they bumped into a handsome young man walking towards them. Yi Dingdang stopped and greeted, "Big brother." Tang Zheng could not help but size up this person. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, red lips, and white teeth. He was truly a romantic and elegant young master. This person was the eldest son of the Ye family's third generation, Yi Ke, one of the 4 young masters of the capital. Yi Ke stopped and looked at the two of them. She revealed a smile and said, "Ding Dang, who is this?" Although Yi Ke and Yi Meiyu were siblings, there was a world of difference between the two of them. Yi Ke was knowledgeable and had a good reputation, which was completely different from Chu Xiaofeng's hedonistic personality. During the time that Yi Dingdang came to the capital, Yi Ke also took care of her. Yi Dingdang heard and introduced, "This is my friend Tang Zheng." "Oh, you are Tang Zheng?" "TSK." Yi Ke looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. "You have to treat Dingdang well in the future, otherwise I, as your big brother, will not let you go." Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment, and suddenly realized that the other party must have known that Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were faking it. He could not help but smile in distress. Yi Dingdang's eyes flashed with shyness, but she did not explain and said, "Big brother, I'll go in first. I'll look for you when I have time." "Okay, you can go. Take advantage of the National Day and have fun," Yi Ke said with a smile. The two of them first went to Yi Tianlei's room. Yi Tianlei and his wife were there. They looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and said, "Little Tang Zheng, you're here. Take a seat." Yi Dingdang looked at her parents resentfully and said, "I'm your daughter. Why do I feel that you're closer to Tang Zheng than you are to me?" Feng Xinyang laughed out loud. "I've wanted to have a son like you for a long time. I'm tired of looking at you all day." Everyone knew that Feng Xinyang was joking, so they didn't take it seriously. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and pretended to be wronged. "Humph, biased. Look, I'm still injured. You still have the nerve to say that. If it weren't for the little handsome brother protecting you, I don't know what would have happened. You're getting bolder and bolder. You actually went to the terrorist's lair without saying a word." Feng Xinyang poked her daughter's forehead and complained. "Everyone went. If I didn't go, wouldn't I be laughed at?" Yi Dingdang explained. Yi Tianlei said, "It's good to go and train. The children of the Ye family have always grown up in a greenhouse. If they don't experience the wind and rain, what kind of words would that be?" Feng Xinyang said, "Fortunately, there is Tang Zheng. If it weren't for him, we would have already dragged you back. Little handsome brother, I heard that your operation this time wasn't going well, and your credit was stolen by others?" Tang Zheng smiled faintly. "This little bit of credit doesn't matter." Yi Dingdang said unjustly, "His credit was stolen by Takashi, and there is also this woman. If it wasn't for her making things difficult for him, how could Tang Zheng not even be able to receive the award?" Hearing Wu, Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang both became serious at the same time. They had long heard of this matter, and Wu was actually the instructor of the student soldiers. When they heard the news, they were shocked and thought that the martial sect had discovered the matter of the ordinary balance. Later on, it was proven that it was all a false alarm. Wu had really lost his memories, and Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were lucky enough to escape this calamity. Look at how open-minded little Tang is. A little bit of profit is nothing. However, little Tang, I really don't understand why you don't maintain a good relationship with the military. Yi Tianlei's fiery eyes of truth saw through Tang Zheng's true goal with a single glance. Tang Zheng was avoiding the military and deliberately not fighting for the credit. Tang Zheng smiled faintly. I am a person who likes freedom. I just want to experience the life of the military camp. If I want to go deep into it and truly become a member, I can't stand those restrictions. Feng Xinyang's eyes lit up. He was not stingy with his praise and said, Good job. In this world, it is good to live freely. If you put so many shackles on yourself, wouldn't you be tired to death? Look, I'm not as happy as I am in the ordinary balance. It's all because of this environment. Yi Tianlei sighed and said, In this world, there are always many things that don't go your way. How can everything go your way? Since you don't like the life of the military, then live according to your own way in the future. Dad, Feng Xinyang, we encountered something today. Yi Dingdang said seriously. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at their daughter in surprise. It was rare to see such a serious expression on her face, so they hurriedly asked, What happened? Today we had a conflict with Chu Xiaofeng. Tang Zheng injured the other party and then killed an expert from their family called Raging Inferno. Chu Xiaofeng. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were not people like Yi Dingdang, who did not pay attention to the outside world. They knew a lot about the complicated connections of the capital. How did you get into a conflict with him? Just as the two of them finished asking this question, they suddenly paused and exclaimed as if they had just woken up from a dream. What did you say just now? You actually killed Raging Inferno? Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang, who had experienced countless big scenes, were also shocked by this news. It was even more shocking than when they clashed with Chu Xiaofeng. Raging Inferno is a first-grade pre-celestial stage martial artist. How did you kill him? Yi Tianlei was also only at the first grade of the pre-celestial stage. He found it hard to believe that an expert of the same cultivation level as him had died at the hands of these two juniors. Looking at her parents' shocked expressions, Yi Dingdang could also feel their shock. Furthermore, after confirming Raging Inferno's cultivation from her parents, she became even more shocked. She quickly suppressed her emotions and corrected her. I didn't kill him, it was Tang Zheng who killed him. Raging Inferno died at his hands alone. Immediately, Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang's expressions became even more shocked. They looked at Tang Zheng as if they had seen a ghost, as if they wanted to cut him open and study how he did it. Yi Dingdang was very satisfied with this effect. She turned her head and looked at Tang Zheng, her big eyes filled with little stars of worship. Tang Zheng was the creator of miracles. It seemed that anything impossible could happen to him. Tang Zheng laughed bitterly. Uncle Yi, Aunt Feng, don't look at me like that. It makes me look like a monster. Actually, all of this was just a fluke. Feng Xinyang smacked her lips and said, Little handsome brother, don't tell me you still don't admit that you're a monster? You've already done such an impossible thing. Tell me, what else can't you do? This kind of praise made Tang Zheng not know whether to laugh or cry, and he was speechless. Yi Dingdang seemed to think that this kind of shock was not enough, and immediately added fuel to the fire. Let me tell you, Raging Inferno did not last long under Tang Zheng's hands, and then turned into a ball of fire and died.
What?
He didn't last long, and he even turned into a ball of fire? Even if Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were to open their brains, they would not be able to imagine the scene. Wasn't Tang Zheng only at the 4th stage of the postnatal stage? Why did it sound like he was at the 4th stage of the postnatal stage? Moreover, how did a person turn into fire? Tang Zheng blushed with shame and hurriedly said, Don't listen to Ding Dong's nonsense. I'm not that powerful. I only defeated him by chance. At that time, there was a barrel of oil in the stairwell. I splashed it on Raging Inferno's body and then turned him into a flaming man. Oil? Why don't I smell gasoline? Yi Dingdang expressed her suspicion. This girl was really observant. It was so chaotic back then, but she still remembered this. Tang Jing obviously would not back down and continued. You said that if I didn't use oil, how could I turn him into a flaming man? Could it be that I can spit fire? Squeak, squeak. Xiao Bai cried out in Tang Jing's embrace and raised his claws, as if he wanted to say that he could breathe fire. Tang Zheng immediately pressed it down and looked at the three of them calmly. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were not present, but they believed this explanation. Otherwise, they would not be able to explain this matter. Only Yi Dingdang, the person involved, was extremely suspicious, but she could not find any other reasonable explanation, so she could only believe this reason for the time being. Yi Tianlei looked at Tang Jing seriously and said, Little Tang, you are really lucky this time. That Raging Inferno is an expert who has been famous for a long time, and even if I were to fight against him, I might not have the confidence to defeat him. I'm afraid that only your Aunt Feng can easily defeat him, but he died in your hands. I dare say that your name will spread throughout the capital. What? Spread throughout the capital? Tang Zheng was shocked. You don't know what a pre-celestial expert means. Although there are many experts in the great families, pre-celestial experts are still as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. You casually killed a pre-celestial expert. It's hard for you not to be famous. Feng Xinyang joked. Sigh. How many people want to be famous? I'm afraid that only your method can truly be called earth-shattering, soaring into the sky in one go. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had never thought of becoming famous. He had only instinctively resisted. The Raging Inferno wanted to kill him, and if he did not kill the Raging Inferno, then he would have no way to live. Therefore, he fought back in order to survive. Yi Dingdong's eyes became brighter and brighter as he clapped his hands and shouted, Good, if you want to be famous, you have to do it as soon as possible. Moreover, killing a pre-celestial expert is such an awe-inspiring thing. Feng Xinyang agreed. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the capital. Every year, there are many dragons that want to amaze the capital with a single brilliant feat. They want to attract the attention of all parties and strive for glory, splendor, and wealth. You are luckier than them and have accomplished what many of them can only dream of. Yi Tianlei nodded his head and said solemnly, However, becoming famous at a young age is a good thing, but there is also a bad side. After you become famous, you will definitely attract the attention of all parties, and in the future, you will not be able to live a peaceful life. As long as you are not recruited into a large power, there will be countless people looking for you, wanting to take you under their wing. Tang Zheng rubbed his nose and laughed self-deprecatingly. Looks like I'm in high demand. What's wrong with being in high demand? This is called being valuable. Other people can't even ask for it even if they want it. Yi Dingdang praised. What? Aren't you happy to see you become famous? What's there to be happy about? I actually like to keep a low profile. Tisk, what's the use of keeping a low profile? Moreover, you're so dazzling, it's impossible to keep a low profile even if you want to. Yi Dingdang said with unconcealable excitement. Chapter 294. What Tang Zheng didn't know was that when he was talking to Yi Tianlei and his wife, his name had spread to the ears of some people in the capital at a terrifying speed. Moreover, it was a fierce name. For a young man to kill a Xiantian lord who had been famous for a long time, just how shocking was that? It had been many years since such an explosive thing had happened in the capital. But who was Tang Zheng? Why had they never heard of this name before? Could it be that he was a ferocious dragon that crossed the river? The answer was quickly revealed. This person was not some dragon that crossed the river, but a local snake. It turned out that he was the Ye family's future son-in-law, Yi Dingdong's fiancé. A few months ago, Yi Xuanji failed to break through to the master stage and almost went berserk. This was something that everyone knew. Many people were secretly watching the Ye family. As long as Yi Xuanji died, the Ye family's reputation would definitely plummet. They would probably fall from the throne of the four great families in the capital. Many new families were watching this matter closely and secretly worked for a long time. As long as Yi Xuanji died, they would work together to pull the Ye family down from their pedestal. But what made everyone surprised was that Yi Xuanji actually survived in the end, and not long after, he actually broke through to the master stage. This made the Ye family, which was originally in a precarious situation, regain its vitality. A master stage was enough to support such a large family, making other people not dare to act rashly. Many people were confused by this huge change, but without a doubt, Yi Xuanji must have obtained a great opportunity. But what this opportunity was, no one could figure it out. At the same time, some people also noticed that the Ye family originally wanted to marry the Song family. The two family heads had secretly agreed on this matter, but later on, the Ye family actually went back on their word. The girl, Yi Dingdang, actually had a fiancé. Many people were curious about who this fiancé was to actually be able to make Yi Xuanji not hesitate to have a conflict with the Song family. But no matter how she investigated, this fiancé was very mysterious. But today, this mysterious fiancé finally made a grand appearance. Moreover, this way of entering the stage was truly unexpected, making one want to slap the table in praise. Killing a Xiantian master was an unimaginable matter. One must know that Xiantian masters were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns in every family. Moreover, they were the most powerful masters in the family. However, they were easily killed by a young man. Just how terrifying was this young man?
No one dared to imagine.
At this point, many people came to a realization. No wonder Yi Xuanji broke off the engagement with the Song family at all costs. No wonder Song Yu, one of the 4 young masters of Beijing, had been snatched by someone else. With such a strong competitor, even the 4 young masters of Beijing could do nothing. Some busybodies even suggested that this son-in-law of the Ye family who came out of nowhere was enough to compare to the so-called 4 young masters of Beijing. Even the high and mighty Yan Luyan in everyone's hearts was probably not as powerful as Tang Zheng. Immediately, it was as if a pot had exploded. Many people wanted to see this Ye family's son-in-law. They wanted to see if he really had 3 heads and 6 arms. How could he be so fierce? Of course, although the matter of Tang Zheng killing Raging Inferno was well known, and there were even witnesses, no one went to the police, and it was even more impossible for the police to get involved in this matter. This was a matter between the big families, so the police could cool off to the side. Tang Zheng did not know that his name had instantly overshadowed the 4 young masters of Beijing. At this moment, he was very vexed. He had always wanted to keep a low profile and then silently increase his strength to deal with the possible pursuit of the martial sect in the future. But this time, his plan was completely disrupted, and he was exposed to the spotlight. Yi Tianlei saw through his worry and advised, "Little Tang, it's impossible for you to keep a low profile. People with ability will eventually shine brightly. Furthermore, since Wu has lost his memories, then the martial sect will not come looking for trouble with you for the time being." Tang Zheng sighed. It seemed that this was the only way. Dong dong. There was a knock on the door, and a voice called out from outside, "Second Master, the old man has invited you over." "All right, we'll go now." Yi Tianlei stood up. "Little Tang, come with us. Since we have sat down on this matter, and Dingdang is also involved, this matter should be handled by the Ye family. Don't worry, if the Chu family wants to take revenge, I will definitely not stand by and watch. Yes, little handsome brother, with us supporting you, you don't have to be afraid. Feng Xinyang guaranteed." Tang Zheng glanced at Yi Dingdang and said, "Uncle Yi and Feng, actually, this matter has already brought the Ye family in. Don't blame Dingdang. She did it all to save me." Yi Tianlei and his wife were shocked. As they walked, they asked about the details of the incident. When they heard Yi Dingdang announce that Tang Zheng was her fiancé, Yi Tianlei was shocked. He obviously understood what this meant. This meant that the Ye family had to protect Tang Zheng. If he jumped out at this time and said that Tang Zheng was not Yi Dingdang's fiancé, others would think that the Ye family was a coward. Therefore, Yi Dingdang's move of acting first and reporting later sealed all the Ye family's escape routes. However, in this way, Tang Zheng was tied to the Ye family. As for who took advantage of it, Yi Tianlei was not clear. After all, Tang Zheng had a master at the master stage behind him. Feng Xinyang's eyes lit up, and she looked at her daughter with joy. This girl was really enlightened, haha, she even knew this move. Tomorrow, wouldn't the whole capital know that Tang Zheng was the Ye family's son-in-law? Hee hee, little handsome brother, if you don't want to be the heartless Chinshimi, then you have to be together with our family's ding-dang. The more Feng Xinyang looked at Yi Ding-dang, the more she liked her. This girl finally had the demeanor of her mother back then. In the future, she would have to nurture her well, deepen her foundation, and firmly hold the little handsome brother in her hands. When the few of them walked into Yi Xuanji's room, they found that Yi Xuanji was sitting on a chair with his eyes closed. When he heard the few of them enter, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his bright gaze immediately fell on Tang Zheng. The last time they met, Yi Xuanji had already decided to acquiesce to the matter between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. However, he did not expect that in just a month, this brat would cause such a huge commotion again. Killing a Xiantian realm cultivator, this move was too fierce, causing Yi Xuanji to almost think that he had misheard. After confirming it again and again, he could not help but have mixed feelings. Back then, when he was at Tang Zheng's age and had the support and care of his family, he did not do such an earth-shattering feat like Tang Zheng. However, when he thought about how Tang Zheng did not even put him, the head of the F family, in his eyes when he was in the ordinary balance, Yi Xuanji felt that all of this was actually not that surprising. Because, in the end, this brat was this kind of person. All the influential people in front of him were like chickens and pottery dogs, and would not make him have much respect at all. Of course, what shocked him even more was that Yi Dingdang publicly announced Tang Zheng's identity as the Ye family's son-in-law. Just this sentence alone was enough to entangle the Ye family, tying the Ye family and Tang Zheng together. Yi Xuanji glanced at his granddaughter. Ever since Yi Dingdang returned to the capital, this pair of grandfather and grandson had truly come into contact with each other and understood each other. Yi Xuanji gradually realized that Yi Dingdang's unyielding character was much more pleasing to the eye than Yi Meiyu's. Although Yi Meiyu had pretended to be a filial granddaughter in front of Yi Xuanji, how could the things that happened outside escape Yi Xuanji's eyes and ears? Therefore, although Yi Xuanji did not change his opinion of Yi Dingdang on the surface, he was paying more and more attention to this granddaughter of his. Even if Yi Dingdang took the initiative to pull the Ye family into the vortex, he did not immediately fly into a rage. "Father, you called us," Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji pointed to the chairs at the side, and after the few of them sat down, he said in a deep voice, "I just heard that Tang Zheng had a conflict with that brat from the Chu family and killed Raging Inferno." Yi Tianlei's heart sank, so the old man had called them over for this matter. He could not see through the old man's thoughts, but he was prepared to argue for himself and protect Tang Zheng, so he quickly said, "Yes." "Dingdang, you told others that Tang Zheng is your fiancé?" Yi Dingdang raised her neck and said without hesitation, "That's right. Didn't I tell you when we were at ordinary balance?" Yi Xuanji snorted coldly and said, "How could your tricks from back then escape my eyes? This time, you used the same trick and brought the Ye family into trouble, did you know that?" Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said, "In any case, the Ye family is not afraid of trouble." Yi Tianlei was infuriated by Yi Dingdang's stubborn temper. Yi Tianlei immediately gave his daughter a look and said, "Father, this matter is not entirely the fault of Dingdang. After all, Dingdang was also a victim at that time. If she did not reveal her identity, then this matter would be very difficult to resolve, and Dingdang might also be in danger." Feng Xinyang rolled her eyes and said, "Old master, I feel that the little handsome brother is pretty good. Moreover, this matter is the truth, and in the future, others will know about it. Instead of hiding it, it is better to say it openly like this." How could Yi Xuanji not understand Feng Xinyang's thoughts? She had long wanted to matchmake Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, so she snorted heavily and said, "In short, this matter has made the Ye family very passive." Tang Zheng frowned, listening to Yi Xuanji's question, and said unhappily, I can explain this matter to these people, and if it has nothing to do with the Ye family, then the Ye family will not suffer any losses. Yi Xuanji looked at him and said, Do you think this matter will be as simple as you say? Since Dingdang announced your relationship to others, then this matter must be treated as true. From now on, you are really Dingdong's fiancé. What? Everyone was shocked, and Tang Zheng's jaw almost fell to the ground. He knew that Yi Xuanji had always been against Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, but he never thought that he would agree to this matter so easily. The key point was that Tang Zheng had never thought of it this way. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at each other. Both of their eyebrows were filled with joy. The old man actually agreed, and Feng Xinyang was even more delighted. As long as the old man passed through, then this matter was set in stone. She looked at Tang Zheng more and more like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law, and the more she looked at him, the more satisfied she was. Yi Dingdang was shocked at first, then a look of joy gradually appeared in the depths of her eyes. She turned to look at Tang Zheng, only to discover that he had a dull look on his face. She could not help but curl her lips and thought, You've taken such a huge advantage of me, yet you're still not happy. Could it be that I'm really not as good as Feng Shishir? Tang Zheng recovered from his shock and quickly said, Absolutely not. Everyone was startled and shocked. Was this brat crazy? He actually said that he couldn't. Many young elites wanted to step into the Ye family. Even if it was Yi Meiyu, who had a bad reputation, there were still many people pursuing her. This brat actually rejected her good intentions. If Tian Chanzi was here, he would definitely want to punch him in the head. Such a good opportunity, and you still want to reject it? Do you want to die? You need an endless supply of pure Yin energy. Yi Dingdang has a pure Yin body, so wouldn't you be able to take her down? It was not that Tang Zheng was not afraid of death, but he already had a girlfriend. If he agreed to the Ye family, what would Feng Shishir do? Feng Shishir had only left for a short while, and he was already looking for a new lover. Wasn't this too much of a beast? Chapter 295. Tang Zheng said matter-of-factly, I already have a girlfriend. Yi Dingdang bit her lips and said, Could it be that I'm not as good as Feng Shishir? Which part of me can't compare to her? This. You're really good, Tang Zheng said hesitantly. Yi Dingdang's conditions were indeed very good. Not only was she beautiful, her family background was illustrious, and she even had good martial arts skills. She was the princess that many people dreamed of. Then I'm good. Why don't you agree? Yi Dingdang persistently asked. Tang Zheng was startled for a moment, looking at the trace of sadness in Yi Dingdang's eyes. His heart skipped a beat. This girl seemed to be different. This was not her style. Feng Xinyang looked at her daughter thoughtfully. As a woman, how could she not see through her daughter's thoughts? Unknowingly, Yi Dingdang had actually been moved by Tang Zheng. It seemed that what was originally a fake show had become a real show. Tang Zheng was speechless. Why didn't he agree? He didn't know either, but he had to admit that sometimes he would have improper thoughts about Yi Dingdang, and the two of them had even shared a bed before. However, he still liked Feng Shishir in his heart. After all, the two of them had gone through many hardships together, experienced many things, and had a deep relationship with each other. Yi Xuanji frowned as he looked at Tang Zheng and said, Girls are just friends. We can just split them up. This matter is settled. Wait for me to choose a good day, and I will hold an engagement party for you. Engagement party? Tang Zheng's head trembled. This was really forcing a duck onto a perch. In the past, he had only heard of forcefully snatching women, but now he was forcefully snatching men. Tang Zheng still wanted to argue, but was interrupted by someone. A person rushed in and shouted, Grandfather, not good. Yi Dingdang is in big trouble. His voice suddenly stopped, because when the other party saw the people in the room, Yi Meiyu was startled, and her expression became extremely complicated. Making such a big fuss. Where are your manners? What trouble did Dingdang cause? Yi Xuanji asked in a deep voice. Yi Meiyu glanced at Yi Tianlei and his wife, thinking that they must be here to beg grandfather for forgiveness. Luckily I came back quickly, otherwise they would have fooled me. The relationship that Yi Meiyu had built with great difficulty with Chu Xiaofeng was destroyed. How could she let it go? After thinking about it, she decided to take revenge. The best way to take revenge on Yi Dingdang was to attack Yi Tianlei's position in the Ye family, and in order to do this, he had to prick Ye's nerves. As a result, Yi Meiyu impatiently rushed back to report to Yi Xuanji about Yi Dingdang. Although everyone else was present, she was not afraid at all. Instead, she said righteously, "Grandfather, Dingdang and Tangzheng just killed the people from the Chu family and injured Chu Xiaofeng. Furthermore, they even involved the Ye family in this matter. His heart was punishable. This accusation was too harsh." Yi Tianlei's face darkened. He was very clear that this niece of his was hostile towards his family, but he never thought that her intentions would be so sinister. Yi Tianlei wanted to flare up, but was stopped by Feng Xinyang. The old man had already made his decision on this matter. No matter how eloquent Yi Meiyu was, it was useless. On the contrary, the more powerful she was, the deeper the hole she dug for herself. Yi Dingdang was immersed in her complicated emotions and was not in the mood to pay attention to Yi Meiyu's accusations. Yi Meiyu looked at Yi Dingdang's appearance and became even more arrogant. She was secretly delighted, thinking that she must have been scolded by her grandfather just now, so she had to add fuel to the fire. However, Yi Meiyu did not notice that Yi Xuanji's gaze towards her was getting colder and colder. Seeing that she was about to continue chattering, he suddenly shouted, "Shut up, Meiyu, you have disappointed me too much. As a member of the Ye family, instead of thinking about how to solve the problem, you pushed Dingdang out and even kept on framing her. Tell me, are you still a member of the Ye family?"
Ah.
Yi Meiyu was shocked and dumbstruck. Why did her grandfather scold her and not blame Yi Dingdang? Wasn't this caused by Yi Dingdang? Scram back to your room. You are not allowed to take half a step out of the house for the next few days. Otherwise, I will break your legs," Yi Xuanji said angrily. Yi Meiyu's face was pale white. The old man had never scolded her like this before. Seeing him fly into a rage, she was puzzled and unreconciled. She glared at Yi Dingdang hatefully, then retreated out of the room. "The family is unfortunate," Yi Xuanji coldly snorted, then looked deeply at Tangzheng and said, "Tomorrow is old man Yan's 80th birthday. Your family will represent the Ye family to congratulate him. Tangzheng will also go." Yi Tianlei's heart skipped a beat. Bringing Tangzheng along meant that Tangzheng would appear as the son-in-law of the Ye family. The Ye family would also receive a lot of attention because of this matter. These big families were not afraid of being noticed. On the contrary, the more attention they received in this circle, the more powerful they were. In fact, in the past few months, the Ye family had indeed been the focus of attention from all sides and had earned a lot of attention. This time, because of the appearance of the mysterious son-in-law, Tangzheng, they would definitely receive even more attention. "Yes, father." Yi Tianlei agreed, and then brought the shocked Tangzheng and his daughter out of the room. "Uncle Yi, how can we do this?" After the few of them had walked far away, Tangzheng finally could not help but ask. Yi Tianlei laughed. "Little Tang, look, the old man has already decided. You should also give him some face. This matter is already tied together with the Ye family. Go tomorrow. Then you can study hard at Yenqing University. If not, you will be disturbed all day. You will also be very annoyed." Yi Tianlei was speaking the truth. If Tangzheng continued to be mysterious and let others guess, even if he hid in the university, he would not be able to live a peaceful life. And if he appeared tomorrow, he could satisfy the curiosity of all forces and let him truly be tied together with the Ye family. Those who wanted to recruit him would give up, because he was already a member of the Ye family. It was already impossible for others to touch him. Tangzheng was silent. He had to admit that Yi Tianlei was right. Moreover, these words were said. If he were to publicly deny it, not only would it be disadvantageous to him, but it would also embarrass the Ye family. He was not a selfish person, although he did not like Yi Tianlei. After all, Yi Tianlei was a member of the Ye family. If the Ye family's reputation was damaged, then Yi Tianlei, would also suffer a loss. He could not bear it. In addition, the most important point was Yi Dingdang. If he stood up and clarified that he had nothing to do with Yi Dingdang, most people would not believe it, but there would also be many people who would gloat and watch a good show. For example, if a girl claimed that another person was her fiancé, but the next day the man clarified that he had nothing to do with her, how hurtful would that be? What would others think of her in the future? Tang Jun glanced at Yi Dingdang, who did not say a word, and thought to himself, it seems that this matter can only be delayed. Wait for a bit more time. Wait for people to gradually forget. Then naturally no one will pay attention to him and Yi Dingdang. Seeing that Tang Jun had tacitly agreed to tomorrow's arrangement, Yi Xuanji breathed a sigh of relief. Feng Xinyang beamed and said, Dingdang, bring Tang Jun to the guest room. He will stay at our house tonight, and tomorrow we will go together to celebrate the birthday of the Yen family's old man. Yi Dingding nodded, and brought Tang Jun to the guest room. Looking at the backs of the two people, Yi Tianlei said worriedly, Do you think this matter will work? Feng Xinyang raised her eyebrows and said confidently, Of course it will work. What kind of person is our family's girl? How could she lose to the Fong family's girl? Moreover, the Fong family's girl is abroad. The pavilion closest to the water gets the moon first. Little handsome brother, this moon will definitely be plucked in the hands of Dingdang. But my Dingdang is really in love. Yi Tianlei sighed. A grown girl cannot be kept at home. This day has finally come. Feng Xinyang chuckled and said, Can't bear to part with your daughter? This day will come sooner or later. What are you sighing for? Moreover, it's good that your daughter is in love. It's not like you don't know our family's girl's character. If you don't like her, even if you put a knife to her neck, she won't do it. But if she really likes you, then she will definitely chase you. This is similar to me, daring to love and daring to hate, as expected of my Feng Xinyang's daughter. Feng Xinyang indeed understood her daughter very well. After Yi Dingdang and Tang Jun came to the guest room, she stared straight at Tang Jun and said resolutely, Tang Jun, let me tell you, no matter what you think in your heart, I will tell you now what I think. From this moment on, I solemnly announce to you that I want to chase you. What? You want to chase me? Tang Jun was forced into a corner by Yi Dingdang and looked at her in shock. Yes, I don't know when it started, but I've already fallen in love with you. If I like something, I will definitely not let go. I will snatch it away. Yi Dingdang gritted her teeth and said, Tang Jun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Am I that charming? Didn't you hate me in the past? That was in the past. The past doesn't count. Besides, I still have a bet with you. I feel that my cultivation can't surpass yours, so I have no choice but to marry you in this life. Otherwise, I will never marry. Looking at her aggressive gaze, Tang Jun felt a lot of pressure. Even when he was facing the raging inferno, he did not feel this much pressure. He could not help but feel a headache coming on, not knowing what to do.
I don't need you to answer me now.
In short, I will definitely catch up to you in these 4 years of university. If you take a step back, I will take 2 steps forward. I don't believe that I, Yi Dingdang, won't be able to catch up to the person I like. Yi Dingdang's face was filled with determination. In fact, if she did not go through this incident, she would have chosen a gradual and silent method. However, Tang Jun had rejected her in front of her entire family, completely remembering her competitive nature. She was originally a competitive person. Since you, Tang Jun, rejected me, then I will do the opposite. I will pursue you with great fanfare. Let's see what you can do. Tang Jun did not expect such a result, but looking at the determination in her eyes, his heart could not help but soften. It was hard for him to imagine how much courage it would take for a girl to confess so righteously. Dingdang, you also know that I have a girlfriend. Let me make it clear first, I will not give up on Sure. Tang Jun felt that he had to make his attitude clear first. Yi Dingdang bit her lips, and her rosy lips gradually turned white. She took a deep breath and said, Who knows what will happen in the future? I only know one thing, and that is that I will definitely make you accept me. Sleep well. Tomorrow we will go to the birthday banquet together. Perform well. Yi Dingdong's man must have an indomitable aura. Tomorrow, I will let the whole world see how different my Yidingdong's man is. With that, she left without looking back. Xiao Bai crawled out of Tang Zheng's embrace with both hands covering his eyes, looking very shy. Seeing that Yi Dingdang had left, he released his claws and squeaked, as if he was giggling. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He knocked on his head and said, "What are you laughing at? Can't you see that your master is in a terrible fix? The ancients say that it is difficult to erase a beauty's grace, and they are not lying to me." Xiao Bai rolled his eyes. "You took advantage of me, and you still want to pretend to be obedient." Chapter 296. The next day, Tang Zheng wore a tailored suit and stood in front of the Ye family. Feng Xinyang specially asked someone to tailor the suit for him. Feng Xinyang looked him up and down and clicked her tongue in praise. "Not bad. You are indeed becoming more and more handsome. When you stand together with our family's Dingdang, you are a perfect match." After Yi Dingdang declared her pursuit to Tang Zheng, she became natural and unrestrained, without the slightest bit of the affectation of a little girl. Hearing her mother's praise, she nodded in agreement. Not bad indeed, much more handsome than usual. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and of course, Pan and is also in the eye of the beholder. Now, Yi Dingdang was looking at Tang Zheng more and more pleasing to the eye. Tang Zheng felt a little happy in his heart. Even though he did not sleep well last night because of Yi Dingdang's meddling, he was still full of energy, with the divine technique protecting his body. Let's go. Yi Tianlei said. The few of them sat in a long luxury car with a special driver, and then went straight to the destination of today's banquet, Longxiang Mountain. This was a small mountain in the suburbs of Beijing. It was not very big, and was not open to the public. It was the private place of the Yan family. The autumn air was cool, the dust was dyed, and the mountain was covered in red. The luxury car drove on the wide mountain road, giving people a feeling of strolling children. Beautiful. At the end of the mountain road was a big iron gate. The iron gate was carved with exquisite patterns, like a work of art. On both sides of the iron gate were two huge stone lions, tall and mighty, showing the imposing manner of this family. Tang Zheng could not help but sigh. This was the real feeling of a family, making people feel awe. On both sides of the gate, there were 2 rows of people welcoming the guests. 1 row of men, with an imposing appearance, and the other row of women, with a beautiful appearance. If Yi Tianlei had not introduced them as servants, Tang Zheng would have thought that they were the young master and daughter of the Yan family. Tang Zheng was secretly shocked. The background of this kind of big family was really incomparable. There were so many people who became rich overnight, but they were only the nouveau riche. Compared to this kind of big family with 100 years of history, it was like the difference between a firefly and the sun. Compared to the Yan family, the Ye family seemed to be dwarfed. Yi Tianlei seemed to have seen through Tang Zheng's thoughts and explained, "The Yan family is the most powerful of the 4 big families in Beijing. They have 2 masters." 2 masters? Tang Zheng was shocked. Yes, the other families only have 1 master. The Ye family also only has 1 master after the old man broke through. But the Yan family is different. Not only is the old man of the Yan family behind the scenes a master, even the current head of the family, Yan Qishan, has also broken through to the master realm. So powerful, then how old is this Yan Qishan? Tang Zheng curiously asked. Next year he will be 50. Yi Tianlei said as he stretched out 5 fingers. He is only 40 years old, and he has already reached the master realm? Tang Zheng was shocked. The master realm was not like the Xiantian masters who could easily break through as long as they accumulated enough strength. Instead, it required luck. Yi Xuanji had accumulated strength for dozens of years and barely touched the door of the master realm. But in the end, because he did not have any luck, he fell short of success. If not for Tang Zheng using the life-continuing pill to save him, he would have already become a soul. Yi Tianlei helplessly smiled bitterly and said, "Yes, it is unimaginable. but Yan Qishan did it. Like father, like son. His son, Yan Luyan, is the head of the 4 young masters of Beijing. He is only 20 years old, but he has already touched the door of the Xiantian realm. Xiantian realm. Tang Zheng's head moved, and he could not help but think of Wu. She was from the martial organization and was only 20 years old, but she had already reached the Xiantian realm. So compared to her, Yan Luyan was slightly inferior. What he did not know was that Yan Luyan was not like Wu, who did not have anything to do every day. The only thing he did was to cultivate. Yan Luyan was in such a large family. He had many businesses to manage and many social events. Since he was young, he did not have much time to cultivate. But he had already reached the Xiantian realm. This was enough to show how high his martial arts talent was. Today you will definitely see Yan Luyan. You are all young people, so you should interact with him more. Yi Tianlei warned. Yes, Uncle Yi. I will act according to the circumstances. Tang Zheng replied in a deep voice. Don't be so rigid. Yan Luyan only has 2 eyes and 1 mouth. There is nothing strange about it. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said disapprovingly. Feng Xinyang advised, Dingdang, in the past you were outstanding in the ordinary balance. But in the capital, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Your ability is not that great. If you do not work harder in the future, you will be left behind even further. I have the Jade Women's Heart Sutra, so I am not worried. I believe that I will definitely be able to catch up to him. Yi Dingdang waved her fist and said confidently. Feng Xinyang praised, You are truly worthy of being my Feng Xinyang's daughter. You should have this kind of drive. Moreover, I believe that Tang Zheng will definitely surpass Yan Luyan in the future. Yi Dingdang did not forget to add. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at Tang Zheng and imagined his terrifying cultivation speed. It was indeed very possible for him to surpass Yan Luyan. The Ye family's car did not stop at the entrance. Instead, it drove into the large villa and finally stopped in front of an ancient wooden building. This wooden building was grand and imposing. It had already been there for many years. There were many people standing in front of the building. Tang Zheng immediately saw 2 people among them. These 2 people had similar eyebrows. They both had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. They looked very talented. However, one was a mature middle-aged man, and the other was a 20-year-old youth. Those 2 are Yan Qishan and Yan Luyan? Tang Zheng asked curiously. It is this pair of father and son. Yi Tianlei lightly said. Then the driver ran out of the car and opened the door. The 4 of them got out of the car. The beautiful scenery in front of them entered their eyes. This villa was a combination of the mountain and the manor. It was definitely the work of a master architect. However, this grand and imposing villa was not as attractive as this pair of father and son in front of them. Yan Qishan laughed loudly. He quickly walked towards Yi Tianlei and said, Tianlei, it has been many years since we last met. The 2 of them shook hands, appearing very intimate. Yi Tianlei also laughed. Yes, Qishan, it has been almost 20 years since we last met. Time passes so quickly. However, back then, I believed that you would definitely return. Because, in the end, you still belong to the capital. Yan Qishan's voice became deep as he spoke from the bottom of his heart. Yi Tianlei was a bit emotional. He said, Thank you. Back then, these 2 were very close. However, after Yi Tianlei was banished to ordinary balance by the Ye family, their relationship gradually weakened. Now that they met with old friends, they naturally felt very close. In the blink of an eye, so many years have passed. We are all old. Now it is the world of the young. This is my family's kid. When you left back then, he was just starting to walk. Yan Qishan patted Yan Luyan's shoulder and introduced him. Yi Tianlei looked at Yan Luyan with a smile. He said, You really are a talent. The little mischievous boy from back then has already grown up. Uncle Yi, in the future, I will have to ask you to give your nephew a few pointers. Yan Luyan said humbly. Yi Tianlei shook his head and said, Luyan, I do not dare to give you pointers. In these years, your reputation has become more and more famous. Everyone has seen it. Even I, as your uncle, am ashamed of my inferiority. Uncle Yi is too kind. Your nephew still has many areas that require Uncle Ye's pointers. This must be Ding Ding. She is already so old. I heard that she is now studying at Yenching University. Yan Qishan's gaze landed on Yi Dingdang. Feng Xinyang, Dingdang has inherited your beauty. In a few years, she will definitely become the most beautiful girl in the capital. Feng Xinyang smiled faintly. Qishan, you flatter me. This girl is very mischievous. She always causes trouble for me. It is a good thing that young people are energetic. If they were as dull as us old fellows, then life would be truly boring. Yan Qishan said. Yan Luyan also looked at Yi Dingdang. He did not hide the admiration in his eyes. However, his eyes were filled with pure admiration and praise. There were no messy desires. Dingdang is also studying at Yenching University? Then I can be considered your senior. I graduated from Yenching University 5 years ago. Yan Luyun said with a smile. Yi Dingdang obediently opened her eyes wide. She said in surprise, Senior must have dominated Yenching University back then. Haha, I was young and impetuous. I was just fooling around. This is... In the end, Yan Qishan placed his attention on Tangzheng. If it was not for the fact that he was dressed differently, others would have thought that he was a follower of the Ye family. The main reason was that his aura was too ordinary. He did not have the valiant and domineering aura. He was so ordinary that it was easy for people to overlook his existence. This was done on purpose by Tangzheng. Today, there were many experts gathered. It was better to keep a low profile. Moreover, others could not see through his cultivation. He really was like an ordinary person. This is Dingdong's fiancé, Tangzheng. Yi Tianlei introduced. Since this time, Tangzheng appeared as Yi Dingdong's fiancé. Of course, he would not hide anything. Instead, he introduced him generously. Oh, it's you. The father and son of the Yan family were both a little surprised. They couldn't help but size up Tangzheng carefully. Yan Qishan was extremely shocked and thought to himself, I actually can't see through his cultivation. He must have some secret technique to intentionally hide it. He killed the Chu family's raging inferno yesterday, so he is at least a pre-celestial stage expert. Tisk, interesting, the Ye family actually found such a powerful son-in-law. Yan Liuyun's shock was no less than his father's. After he heard about the death of the raging inferno yesterday, he was both surprised and suspicious. He was only at the 9th stage of the post-celestial stage and could already be considered the most powerful person in the younger generation of the various large families in the capital. However, an even more monstrous person suddenly appeared, causing him to be unable to help but look at him in a different light. Tianlei, you've really found a good son-in-law. In just a day, his name has already spread throughout the capital.
Who knows how many people are asking about him?
Yan Qishan sighed. Yi Tianlei said in a deep voice, This time, we really had no choice. If it wasn't for that brat from the Yan family forcing us, little Tang wouldn't have killed Raging Inferno. So, what if he's killed? What's there to be surprised about? Yan Qishan said without a care. This is called the Yangtze River. The waves behind drive the waves before, and the waves in front die on the beach. Your son-in-law's waves are really fierce. Lu Yun, look at Tangzheng. He's not surprised by anything. This is the true demeanor. Learn more from him in the future. Yan Luyan was not angry at his father's words in the slightest. Instead, he looked convinced and nodded. Father is right, Tangzheng, in the future, we will all be in the capital. Please give us more advice. Tangzheng had been observing this father and son pair the entire time. From their words and actions, he could tell that they were really well educated and could not find a single flaw in them. After hearing Yan Liuyun's humble words, he said without batting an eyelid, The two of you are too kind. I was just lucky by chance. I am far from being able to compare to young Master Yan. Calling me young Master Yan is too distant. I'm a few years older than you. If you don't mind, calling me Big Brother Yen is what I like to hear the most. Yen Luyun said straightforwardly. That kind of cordiality made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Right, the two of you should get closer. Yen Qishan warned. Chapter 297. After exchanging greetings for a while, Tang Zheng addressed him as Big Brother Yen. One had to know that this form of address was enough to make many people envious, because this meant that Tang Zheng had entered the eyes of the Yen family. For someone who had just arrived in the capital, this was very difficult to come by. Yen Luyan accompanied the few people into the wooden building. There were already many guests inside. Not only were there business people here, but there were also people from the political world. Tang Zheng saw a few big shots who often appeared on TV. Obviously, the level of this circle was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. However, Tang Zheng's state of mind was very calm. There was not the slightest ripple. No matter how much money or power the other party had, to him, there was not much difference between them and a passerby. Yen Luyan had been observing Tang Zheng. He saw that his expression did not change. It was as if he was a person who was used to dealing with this kind of situation. However, he knew that Tang Zheng's previous identity was actually very simple. He did not have the experience to deal with this kind of situation. This was enough to show that he was not simple. This brother Tang is really not ordinary. Yen Luyan sighed with emotion. There is such a powerful person in the capital, and he is the son-in-law of the Ye family. The days ahead will definitely be more and more exciting. When the others saw Yen Luyan personally accompanying the few people into the building, they were very surprised. Many people who did not know Yi Tianlei guessed who they were. They actually had the Yen family's young master personally accompany them. After all, Yi Tianlei had been away from the capital for too many years. Although he had appeared in a few occasions in the past few months, it did not mean that everyone knew him. Everyone whispered. After a while, they figured out Yi Tianlei's identity. Suddenly, they realized that the Ye family had arrived. But when they thought of the rumors from back then, everyone's thoughts started to turn. Although it seemed that Yi Tianlei and Yen Qishan were having a good chat and were very close friends when they were young, the Yen and Yi families were not as friendly and harmonious as they seemed on the surface. The Yen family was powerful, and their development in the past few years was even more rapid. On the other hand, the Ye family was gradually going downhill. If Yi Xuanji did not break through to the master level, then the Yen family would definitely not let go of the Ye family, this fat piece of meat. Because if this piece of meat was given to another family, that family's strength would increase greatly, and it would threaten the Yen family's ruling position. This was also the reason why Yi Xuanji did not hesitate to ally with the Song family through marriage. It was to resist the possible actions of the Yen family. However, this time, Yi Xuanji had mysteriously reached the master level, so the Yen family's strategy to deal with the Ye family had changed. This time, it was the Yen family's grandfather's birthday. The Yen family even personally sent an invitation to the Ye family. Yi Xuanji understood the reason very well. The Yen family wanted to use this birthday to ease the conflict between them and the Ye family. Yi Xuanji did not object, and even sent Yi Tianlei to personally attend. This already explained his intentions. The two families were still in a competitive relationship, but because of Yi Xuanji's breakthrough, it was no longer a life and death situation, but a delicate balance. Those who were observant naturally figured out the intention of this, and could not help but think in their hearts. If the conflict between the Ye family and the Yen family was eased, then their relationship with the Song family would definitely become tense. And where would the Chu family, who had always been on good terms with the Yen family, go? In fact, the Chu family's strength was on par with the Ye family. In the past, it was because of their close relationship with the Yen family that no one could shake the Chu family's position. This time, the Ye family's performance was so eye-catching, and the Ye family's son-in-law even killed a Xiantian master of the Chu family. How would the Ye family and the Chu family end? Everyone looked like they were waiting to watch a good show, especially many of their gazes landed on Tang Zheng. Because Tang Zheng's identity was already obvious, everyone was sizing up this future son-in-law of the Ye family. Where did this kid come from? How could he be so ridiculously powerful? Yi Tianlei did not stay idle either. He brought the Ye family and introduced them to a few people who were on good terms with the Ye family. Tang Zheng undoubtedly became the focus of attention. Seeing that he handled things with ease and was neither servile nor overbearing, everyone secretly nodded. The son-in-law chosen by the Ye family was really a dragon among men. It was really strange that they had never heard of him before. After a while, a few more people came in through the door. Everyone hurriedly looked over and greeted them. Yan Luyan also quickly stepped forward to welcome them. "Uncle Song, please come in." The people who came in were from the Song family of the four great families. Two of them happened to be acquaintances of Tang Zheng, Song Yu, and Qin Lao. Yi Tianlei also saw the people of the Song family. He walked over to them unhurriedly. Although there was a rift between the Song family and the Yi family because of the marriage, they were still relatively close on the surface. "Han Jun," Yi Tianlei called out loudly. The leader of the Song family, Song Yu's father, Song Hanjun, replied to Yi Tianlei, "Tianlei, you came earlier than me." This sentence had a deep meaning. It seemed to be saying that the Ye family was preparing to get closer to the Yan family. Yi Tianlei heard the implied meaning, but did not directly respond. Instead, he smiled and said, "The air in the city is not good. The Longxiang mountain is high and the air is fresh, so I came out early to breathe in the fresh air." Song Hanjun smiled meaningfully. His gaze fell on Tang Zheng and said, "Presumably, this is the son-in-law you chose? Humph, he is really a talent." This sentence was obviously sarcastic. No matter how Tang Zheng dressed up in terms of appearance, he was indeed not Song Yu's opponent. The Ye family chose Tang Zheng and gave up Song Yu. How could Song Hanjun not be angry about this? Perhaps he was one of the people present who hated Tang Zheng the most. However, as an elder, if he were to target a younger generation, then he would appear to be too inferior. Hanjun has discerning eyes. This is indeed Ding Dong's fiancé. Yi Tianlei acted as if he did not hear the ridicule and said naturally and generously. Feng Xinyang's eyebrows jumped, but he did not act out. Tang Zheng was indeed the calmest. He would not be affected by the other's words. Suddenly, a soft little hand appeared in his hand. Yi Dingdang actually held his hand, as if announcing their relationship to Song Yu. Song Yu looked at the two's tightly clasped hands and said meaningfully, "Tang Zheng, when I first saw you at Ordinary Balance's residence, I knew you were not an ordinary person. You really gave me a big surprise." When he was at Ordinary Balance, Song Yu could be sure that Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng's so-called relationship was just to deal with him. There was actually not much of a real relationship between the two. However, it was different now. Since the Ye family had announced it, then even if there was no relationship between the two, there would still be a relationship. Therefore, Song Yu, was really defeated by Tang Zheng. In fact, from the beginning, Song Yu did not have strong feelings for Yi Dingdang. He knew that his marriage would definitely be arranged by his family since he was young, so he did not reject the marriage with Yi Dingdang. After he met Yi Dingdang unknowingly, he actually began to admire and like her. After he left Ordinary Balance, this feeling was abnormally strong. However, Yi Xuanji later cancelled the engagement, which made him draw water with a bamboo basket. This shattered his beautiful dream. In fact, if it was not for the Ye family announcing Tang Zheng's identity, Song Yu would not have much hostility towards Tang Zheng. After all, Song Yu could be sure that the relationship between the two was just a joke when he was at Ordinary Balance. However, this time it was real, which meant that he was defeated by Tang Zheng. This made him, the young master of the Song family, shocked and angry. In the past few days, he had already heard a lot of rumors. After all, Song Yu was defeated by an unknown Tang Zheng. This kind of thing was too worth gossiping about. Some of the playboys who did not have a good relationship with Song Yu were even fanning the flames to ridicule him, making Song Yu hold back a burst of anger in his heart. He could not help but regret. When he was at ordinary balance, Qin Lao had proposed to deal with Tang Zheng, but he had rejected it. He thought that Tang Zheng was insignificant and had even thought of taking Tang Zheng under his wing, so he showed goodwill in ordinary balance's courtyard. He never thought that things would turn out like this. Perhaps if time went back, he would have made a different decision. Song Yu's heart flashed with many complicated thoughts, but his expression did not change. Instead, he looked at Tang Zheng with a faint smile. Tang Zheng calmly said, "I still have to thank young Master Song for choosing the jade for me. It's nothing. Do you know what I like the most? I like to see a piece of unpolished jade shine with extraordinary splendor after being carved. In this world, unpolished jade is extremely rare, and those that can shine with extraordinary splendor are even rarer. But in the end, those that can truly withstand the test of time and wind and frost are few and far between. Those so-called unpolished jade that disappear in the long river of history only have an instant of youthful splendor before being forgotten." Song Yu lightly said. But these words were too meaningful. Everyone here was smart, so they immediately understood the meaning behind these words. It seemed that the father and son of the Song family liked this kind of thing. Tang Zheng faintly smiled. Of course, he understood that the so-called unpolished jade was him. Song Yu was saying that this piece of unpolished jade, would be thrown into the smelly ditch of history. Only Song Yu would leave his name in history.
Pay.
Tang Zheng originally had a good impression of Song Yu, but after hearing these words, the good impression disappeared. He said, "Young Master Song's words are very true, but I have always thought that jade is too delicate and can't withstand the wind and rain. But no matter the wind and rain, a stone can stand without falling. So I like stone more. In fact, I am also like a stone." Tang Zheng's counterattack was very simple. It made everyone's eyes light up, but it made Song Yu immediately frown. It also made Song Hanjuan's eyes reveal a murderous intent. In particular, Qin Lao's eyes turned cold, like a sharp sword light shooting out. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the Yen family, he would have already made a move. When Qin Lao saw Tang Zheng's heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship in ordinary balance, he was shocked. He guessed that there must be a swordsman master behind Tang Zheng. This master could even be compared to the sword god, so he was worried that such an expert would be disadvantageous to Song Yu, so he left ordinary balance with Song Yu that night. Later on, he had searched everywhere to see if there was such a swordsman master, but he didn't find any clues at all. Moreover, there was no doubt that Tang Zheng was not the successor of the sword god, so his origin was especially mysterious. Originally, he thought that he wouldn't have any contact with Tang Zheng, but this time, Tang Zheng actually came to Beijing and humiliated Song Yu in front of everyone in Beijing. This made Qin Lao very angry. He couldn't wait to take Tang Zheng's life. The atmosphere became very delicate. Tang Zheng and Song Yu looked at each other. Yi Dingdang held Tang Zheng's hand tightly. She knew that she had pushed Tang Zheng into this whirlpool, so she could only hold his hand and give him strength. However, she was full of confidence in Tang Zheng. No matter how big the danger was, she believed that Tang Zheng could deal with it. Everyone looked at this scene at the same time. As the saying goes, when love rivals meet, their eyes turn red. These two love rivals' words were full of sarcasm. How are they going to end this? Whoosh. Chapter 298. This palm was out of everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that there would be someone who would dare to make a move in the Yen family. One had to know that this was the birthday of the Yen family's old man. Therefore, when the palm arrived in front of Tang Zheng, the others finally reacted. However, Tang Zheng's reaction was very fast. Although he was in the Yen family, he still maintained sufficient vigilance. Thus, he quickly extended his palm, channeled all of his innate qi into his palm, and fiercely swung it out.
Bang!
A thunderous sound rang out as Tang Zheng was sent flying backwards. Luckily, Yi Tianlei's reaction was not slow as he quickly blocked Tang Zheng's back. Both of his palms pressed against Tang Zheng's back, stopping him from retreating.
Puff.
A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Tang Zheng's mouth, and pain flashed across his eyes. This attack was truly unbearable, causing his mind to tremble, his innate qi to churn, especially his pure yang energy, which was even more violent, as if a volcano was about to erupt. He furiously looked at the person who had launched the sneak attack. It was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked dignified without being angry, and it was obvious that he had an extraordinary status. In her eyes, Feng Xinyang was plain and unremarkable, as if she was born with this knowledge. Many things that ordinary people thought were complicated were very simple in her eyes. She was a genius, but this genius found that she could not understand Tang Zheng at all. This was 10 times something that would never happen to other people. Even if her father had a high position, she could still see through him. This meant that Tang Zheng was even more mysterious than Yan Patian. In fact, it was precisely because she was too smart that she had seen through this world that she felt that this world was boring. That was why she had resolutely decided to become a monk. Hearing Yan Potion's advice, Tang Zheng's expression did not change much and said calmly, "Thank you for Elder Yan's good intentions, but I have already made up my mind and will not change it." The King of Medicine shook his head and laughed bitterly. "Little friend Tang Zheng and I do not have the fate of being master and disciple, but to be able to meet you in this life and see some miracles that I have never thought of. I have no regrets in this life." Miracle? What miracle? Everyone was very curious, but if the King of Medicine did not say anything, no one would ask. Even though Yan Patian had a stomach full of questions, he did not ask. Yi Tianlei's family looked at each other. Of course they knew that miracle. It was the miracle created by the life-continuing pill. However, Tang Zheng had agreed beforehand that the person involved could not reveal this matter to others, so it was inconvenient for them to announce it to the public. However, without a doubt, due to the appearance of the Medicine King, the mysterious halo around Tang Zheng's body had increased by a few points. Without a doubt, he had become the focus of attention today, and even Yan Patian, the old man, was probably inferior to him. Tang Zheng's appearance this time was extremely successful, almost blinding everyone's eyes. Chapter 299. Tang Zheng's stunning appearance overshadowed the light of the rest of the people from the Chu family, especially the people from the Chu family, who were extremely jealous. When the old man returned to his seat, Yan Luyun could not help but pat Tang Zheng's shoulder and praised, "Brother Tang, you're really something. You actually have so many abilities. Even Senior King of Medicine praises you so much." Tang Zheng smiled faintly. "My reputation can't compare to Big Brother Yan's. I've made a fool of myself. I don't dare to laugh. Haha, with a person like you in the capital, it will definitely be even more interesting," Yan Luyun said meaningfully. The others looked at Yi Tianlei enviously. Where did they find such a son-in-law? He was too awesome. These people really wanted to marry their daughters to Tang Zheng. Chu Mingxian snorted coldly from not far away. His sudden attack just now made old man Yan say a few words, but he did not continue to blame him. After all, the relationship between the Yan and Chu families was not ordinary, and Chu Mingxian relied on this to act so recklessly. At the start of the birthday banquet, all of the guests presented their own gifts, all of which were treasures, but Yan Patian only nodded his head lightly and did not care much about these precious items. "Elder Yan, today is your birthday, and what you usually like the most is martial arts. Why don't we invite a few juniors to spar with each other, and then cheer Elder Yan up? We can also ask Elder Yan to give us a few pointers." Suddenly, Chu Mingxian suggested loudly. Yan Patian was originally whispering to Yan Qingyi, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but raise his head and look at Chu Mingxian in astonishment. Chu Mingxuan's eyes were burning, faintly jumping with excitement. Song Hanjun smiled faintly and said, "Mingxuan's suggestion is not bad. Most of the people here today are martial warriors. Using this method to celebrate Elder Yan's birthday is the best way." Song Hanjun and Chu Mingxian looked at each other and smiled. Yen Patian seemed to be deep in thought as he nodded his head. All right, the waves behind the Yangtze River will push the waves before. The young elites today are better than the previous year, and I also like to watch the competition between the young elites the most. The young elites are the backbone of the next generation. Immediately, everyone's gazes locked onto Tang Zheng at the same time. Chu Mingxian and Song Hanjuan's words seemed to be pointing at something. They were probably here for Tang Zheng. They were so insidious. Obviously, they were doing what Senior Yen liked, pushing Tang Zheng into the fire pit. Yi Dingdang clenched Tang Zheng's hand tightly and said indignantly, "They are too despicable. Are they trying to gang up on Tang Zheng again?" Feng Xinyang's face was also full of indignation. Apparently, she had seen through the other party's intentions. She said, "Ding Dang, don't worry. No one will be able to hurt the little handsome brother." Yen Patian glanced at Yen Luyun and said, "Then let's let our family's Luyun throw a brick to attract Jade first." Yen Luyun took a step forward and cupped his hands towards everyone. "Since grandfather has given this order, then I will respectfully accept it. I will take this opportunity to wish grandfather a happy birthday. I wish grandfather a happy life like the East Sea and a long life like the South Mountain." Yen Patian nodded kindly. "I wonder which young hero is willing to fight with Lu Yun?" Everyone was silent. Yen Luyun was one of the 4 young masters of the capital, and everyone knew that he had the highest cultivation in his entire life. Ordinary people would not dare to challenge him. "I'll do it." Suddenly, a young man stood out. This person had a resolute expression, and with a single glance, it was obvious that he was not an ordinary hedonistic son of rich parents. "Brother Yen, you have to be lenient. Don't overdo it," the young man said. Yen Luyun laughed out loud. "This is just a spar." Without wasting any time, the two of them collided with each other. Yen Luyun's martial arts were extremely ferocious and overbearing, and the challenger was not weak either. The two of them jumped up and down, and it was difficult to determine who would win. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. This Yen Luyun was indeed not an ordinary person. His power was far above Tang Zheng's. This Yen family's inheritance was really good. The entire family was actually martial arts experts. The two sides fought to their heart's content for hundreds of moves. Suddenly, Yen Luyun's elbow struck the challenger's chest fiercely.
Whiz!
The challenger directly flew out and landed steadily on the ground. He did not vomit blood, but instead laid on the ground in a slightly sorry state. The outcome had already been decided. Yen Luyun was strong, and this challenger had been completely defeated. Pa pa pa. Warm applause rang out nonstop. Someone praised, "Young Master Yen is indeed extraordinary. This series of attacks is truly too domineering." Following that, a few more young martial warriors went up to the stage to fight. The atmosphere was extremely intense, causing the birthday banquet to have an additional valiant wind, but it caused Yen Patian to beam. Suddenly, Chu Mingxian said loudly, "Everyone's battles are very exciting. After a few decades, all of us will no longer be here, and this world will be yours. However, there is still a young expert who has not gone up on stage today. Tang Zheng, you won't be a coward, right?"
Schwa.
Everyone's gaze was attracted to Tang Zheng. Their expressions were a little strange. Chu Mingxian had really spared no effort. His sneak attack just now had failed, and now he was actually encouraging him to participate in this kind of arena competition. It was obvious that he did not want to let Tang Zheng have an easy time. Yi Dingdang could not help but fly into a rage and said furiously, "What do you mean? Are you still not satisfied with the sneak attack on Tang Zheng just now?" The corner of Chu Mingxuan's mouth raised, and he said, "Just now, I was not sneak attacking, but testing his skills. After testing him, I realized that he was truly unfathomable. Wouldn't it be a waste if such an expert did not let everyone broaden their horizons? Moreover, the others were all on stage, and he was the only one who was not on stage. Could it be that he was not sincerely wishing Elder Yen well? You don't even agree to this small request." He was too vicious. to actually use such words to force Tang Zheng. Humph. Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. We won't fall for your trap. Yi Dingdang said straightforwardly. Chu Mingxian knowingly asked, What are you talking about? I don't understand. Tang Zheng, it can't be that you don't want to fight, right? If you're afraid, just say it. Are you afraid? I still don't know how to write this word. Tang Zheng took a step forward and said fearlessly. Tang Zheng, don't be rash. You took his palm strike just now and were injured. It's not suitable for you to continue fighting. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang hurriedly advised. However, Tang Zheng was unmoved. His situation was indeed not optimistic. Although he had temporarily suppressed the restless pure yang energy, if he were to make a move now, he could not guarantee that the pure yang energy would not rebound. However, he could not swallow this anger. After being forced to this extent, if he continued to be a coward, wouldn't he be scolded to death? Seeing that, the others all shook their heads. Tang Zheng was still too impulsive and had fallen for the other party's provocation. Yan Qingyi's eyes lit up and said in a low voice, I'm really looking forward to him making a move. Yan Patian laughed. I'm also looking forward to it. This young man is too mysterious. I can also see from him which sect he comes from. This was one of the reasons why Yan Patian agreed to Chu Mingxuan's request. Yan Patian boasted that his martial arts had reached perfection, but this time, he discovered that he could not even see through the cultivation of a junior. This made him feel unconvinced, and he could use this opportunity to investigate. He wanted to see who exactly taught such a mysterious disciple. King of Medicine revealed a worried expression and said, Little friend Tang Zheng just suffered an internal injury, and now that you're making a move, it's not appropriate. Yan Patian comforted him. Don't worry, with so many of us here, your precious disciple will not be in any danger. King of Medicine laughed bitterly. He didn't agree to be my disciple. This kid is really confused. Yan Patian shook his head and sighed. Yan Qingyi's bright eyes were already fixed on Tang Zheng's body. He walked to the empty space in the center of the hall and stared at Chu Mingxian. Chu Xiaofeng did not come. Could it be that you want to go on stage yourself today? That's right, didn't you sneak attack him just now? This time, it doesn't seem impossible for the big to bully the small again. He dares. Yi Tianlei shouted angrily. Chu Mingxian laughed coldly. Of course it's not me. Since it's a young elite, then it's naturally a competition between juniors. Xiaohun, since Tang Zheng is so powerful, then go and ask him for some pointers. Yes, uncle. A person stood out from behind Chu Mingxian. Just now, this person had been standing behind Chu Mingxian, causing people to almost ignore his existence.
Chu Xiaohui.
Everyone exclaimed, It's actually him. This time, Tang Zheng will be very troublesome. That's right. Chu Xiaohui is a 9th stage post-celestial stage cultivator. He is slightly weaker than Yan Luyan. Tang Zheng is so young, he is definitely not his match. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, Chu Mingxian explained, Everyone, don't underestimate Tang Zheng. Raging Inferno is a first-grade pre-celestial stage. Didn't he also die in Tang Zheng's hands? Xiaohui is a 9th stage post-celestial stage, far inferior to Tang Zheng. I just want him to give me a few pointers. Chu Mingxuan's words were dignified, but in reality, he was hiding evil intentions. Just now, when he exchanged a palm strike with Tang Zheng, he had already roughly guessed Tang Zheng's cultivation. He was definitely not a pre-celestial expert like the legend said, and being able to kill Raging Inferno was definitely just a coincidence. Just now, he had injured him, and now that he had called Chu Xiaohui, who was at the 9th stage of the post-celestial stage, to fight, he believed that victory was in the bag. If he could accidentally kill Tang Zheng in the battle later on, that would be too wonderful. Even if he couldn't kill Tang Zheng, being able to make him lose face could be considered as regaining face for the Chu clan. Chu Mingxian used his bitter conscience, while the people of the Song family opened their eyes wide, preparing to watch a good show. Qin Lao whispered into Song Yu's ear, Young master, Tang Zheng is injured. He is definitely not Chu Xiaohui's match. This time, he is going to make a fool of himself. Song Yu's mouth flashed with a cold smile, but he did not say a word. Yi Dingdang could not help but shout, "You guys are too much. If you have the ability, wait until Tang Zheng recovers from his injuries before fighting. What kind of ability is bullying others like this?" Hearing that, Chu Mingxian did not move at all. It's not old Master Yan's birthday in the future. Time waits for no one. Tang Zheng, don't fight with him. This kind of person is shameless. Yi Dingdang advised Tang Zheng. Not fighting?
How could that be?
Tang Zheng did not want to escape and said, "All right, then bring it on. Let's see who wins and who loses." Chu Mingxian gave Chu Xiaohui a look. Chu Xiaohui understood. His face darkened and cupped his hands. "Then please enlighten me."
Whiz.
Chapter 300. Tang Zheng opened his 10 fingers like a claw, grabbing towards Chu Xiaohui's ankle. Suddenly, Chu Xiaohui's leg suddenly changed the direction of his attack, and instead of sweeping towards the top of Tang Zheng's head, it swept towards his waist. The change of moves was so fast that Tang Zheng was unable to defend against it. Tang Zheng was shocked and reacted accordingly, but it was already too late. With a muffled bang, Tang Zheng's waist was ruthlessly struck by the whip kick. Tang Zheng immediately fell to the side. Luckily, he used his palm to support himself on the floor. He did not fall to the ground. In that instant, the opponent's attack arrived again, as fast as lightning. Tang Zheng was only at the 4th stage of the foundation establishment stage, and was already a few levels lower than Chu Xiaohui's 9th stage post-celestial stage. Previously, he was also ambushed by Chu Mingxian and was injured, which made things worse. After eating this kick, he felt that the calm pure yang energy had erupted like a volcano, causing the temperature of his entire body to increase explosively. F***CK, damn it, I've messed up this time. Without the pure yin energy to neutralize it, my body will explode, and I will die. Tang Zheng thought sorrowfully. Seeing Chu Xiaohui kicking towards him again, the power was obviously even more terrifying than the previous attack. The others were anxious. Could Tang Zheng withstand this kick? Immediately, everyone held their breaths. Yi Dingdong's hands were tightly clenched, and his lips were even bitten to the point of bleeding. However, he was completely unaware of it, and looked at Tang Zheng in a daze. At this time, Tang Zheng could not summon the heaven-shocking bow out of thin air, and could only use his palms to block it. Why did he miss? There was a black figure in front of him, and this figure seemed a little familiar.
Bang.
With a muffled sound, a person flew out.
Ah.
Everyone cried out in alarm at the same time. The person who flew out was not Tang Zheng, but Chu Xiaohui, and another black-clothed man appeared in front of everyone. Who is this? This black-clothed man was clearly not one of the original people in the hall, but had suddenly flown in from outside the hall. The Yen family was heavily guarded, yet this person was able to quietly enter this place, indicating that he was definitely an expert. The man in black did not pay attention to the other people's surprise, nor did he have the slightest fear because this was the famous Yen family. Instead, like a whirlwind, he rushed toward Chu Xiaohui. Before Chu Xiaohui could land on the ground, he found that his leg was grabbed by the man in black. He was shocked. Just now, he didn't even see the other party's movements clearly. Then, he felt like he had kicked a metal plate and was sent flying by a surge of power. At this moment, seeing that one of his legs was caught, he hurriedly used his other leg to perform a chain kick. A series of kicks landed on his opponent's body. Bang, bang, bang. However, this person was like a boulder. He did not move at all, and did not even make a sound. However, Chu Xiaohui saw the fierce light in the other party's eyes and knew that something was wrong. The man in black raised his fist, aimed at the leg he was grabbing, and smashed it down.
Kacha.
The sound of bones cracking made one's scalp go numb. Chu Xiaohui's eyes widened as he opened his mouth and screamed. Ah, it hurts so much. The others turned pale with fright. Who was this black-clothed man? His attacks were too ruthless. He actually broke Chu Xiaohui's leg in one move. Chu Xiaohui was a ninth-stage post-celestial stage martial artist. Could it be that this black-clothed man was a pre-celestial stage martial artist? Chu Mingxuan's expression had already changed. Chu Xiaohui was the one with the highest cultivation in the third generation of monks, but this time his leg was actually broken by the other party. How could he not be angry? He couldn't help but shout, "Stop." The black-clothed man acted as if he didn't hear anything. He grabbed the other party's other leg with lightning speed and did the same thing. With a kacha sound, the bone broke, and a piece of white bone even pierced through the skin. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Too ruthless. This person was too ruthless. Whiz! Chu Mingxian finally made his move and rushed towards the black-clothed man, preparing to snatch his nephew back. However, the black-clothed man was even faster than him. With a pull of his arm, Chu Xiaohui was grabbed by the neck and blocked in front of his chest. In order to avoid accidentally injuring Chu Xiaohui, Chu Mingxian had no choice but to stop. The black-clothed man brought the screaming Chu Xiaohui back to Tang Zheng's side, and Tang Zheng finally saw the black-clothed man clearly and couldn't help but be dumbstruck. Huang Xiang? Tian Chanzi's puppet. How could it be him? Tang Zheng was truly too shocked. Ever since the ordinary balance parted ways, it had already been a few months. He had not contacted Tian Chanzi at all, and he did not know if Tian Chanzi had found any other cultivators. But why would Huang Xiang appear here at this time? The others also looked at Huang Xiang in shock, and even Yan Patian and the King of Medicine stood up at the same time. Yan Patian looked at Huang Xiang suspiciously. This person seemed to be very evil and was actually an expert of the first grade of the pre-celestial stage. The King of Medicine was even more dumbstruck and could not help but exclaim, "It's him." He had met Huang Xiang once before. Back then, when Tang Zheng was injured and hospitalized, Huang Xiang went to assassinate Tang Zheng, but was stopped by the King of Medicine. That night's battle was a narrow victory, but from Huang Xiang's actions just now, the King of Medicine could already tell that the other party's cultivation had improved greatly and was far from what he could contend against. What was going on? Didn't this person want to kill Tang Zheng? Why would he appear here to protect Tang Zheng instead? Hearing the King of Medicine's exclamation, Yan Patian asked curiously, "King of Medicine, do you know him?" "We've met once." It's a long story. The Ye family was not unfamiliar with Huang Xiang at all. They already knew that Huang Xiang had been subdued by Tang Zheng, but they never thought that he would appear in front of a Yan family in such a way. The others did not recognize Huang Xiang, so they all shouted angrily, "Who is this person?" Seeing that everyone was looking at each other in dismay, Chu Mingxian took a step forward and glared at him. "Tang Zheng, is this the helper you invited?" Tang Zheng's entire body was boiling hot, and his face had also turned red, but he did not have much strength to speak. He sneered and did not comment. "Hurry up and release Xiaohui, or else I'll make sure you won't be able to leave this house today." Chu Mingxian berated sternly. Tang Zheng still did not say a word, but Huang Xiang made a move, and the hand that was grabbing onto Chu Xiaohui's neck suddenly retracted. Everyone's expression changed, and Chu Mingxian shouted in shock, "No!" But it was all too late. Only the crisp sound of bones breaking could be heard. Chu Xiaohui's neck was easily crushed. Chu Xiaohui's head drooped softly, like a dead dog as he died.
What?
The black-clothed man really killed Chu Xiaohui just like that. Although Chu Xiaohui was not Chu Mingxuan's biological son, he was still the most powerful expert in the third generation of the Chu clan. Furthermore, he was not like Chu Xiaofeng, who only knew how to play around. He was someone who Chu Mingxian had high hopes for, but he was killed by the black-clothed man in front of everyone's eyes. The black-clothed man did not hesitate in the slightest. Everyone felt that this was simply a dream. This black-clothed man didn't seem to put the famous Chu clan in his eyes at all. Huang Xiang didn't have much of a mind, he was just a killing machine. Even if it was the Heavenly King, he wouldn't put him in his eyes, let alone the Chu clan. Since Chu Xiaohui was dead, Chu Mingxian no longer had any scruples. Furthermore, in his rage, he did not care about anything else. With a roar, he struck Huang Xiang's body with his palm. His speed was too fast. Huang Ziang didn't even have time to dodge and took the palm strike head-on.
Bang.
Huang Ziang flew out, fiercely smashing into a pillar, and landed on the ground in a sorry state.
Dead?
Everyone had doubts in their hearts. After taking such a shocking palm strike from a pre-celestial martial artist, he definitely wouldn't be able to survive, right? Chu Mingxian was very confident that this palm strike was enough to take the other party's life, but he did not stop there. His target was Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng, Xiaohui is dead. I want you to pay with your life. Chu Mingxian roared. Stop. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang both moved at the same time. The two of them were very fast, and in the blink of an eye, they were already behind Chu Mingxian. Tang Zheng was already dizzy from the pure yang energy and did not have the strength to resist at all. Seeing Chu Mingxian launch a fatal attack at him, he was powerless to do anything. Damn, Tian Chanzi, are you really going to watch me die? He cursed in his heart. But Tian Chanzi did not appear because Huang Ziang was blocking in front of him again. But this time, Huang Ziang had also prepared his defense. He kicked towards Chu Mingxuan's chest, causing the air to explode, and the air was compressed to the extreme by this kick. Chu Mingxian turned pale with fright. How could this black-clothed man not die? He was very clear on how powerful his palm strike was. However, at this moment, Chu Mingxian was being attacked from both sides. In front of him was Huang Ziang, and behind him was the Ye family couple. If he was hit, he would probably lose half of his life. Stop. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out, and a huge gust of wind rose up from the ground. Chu Mingxian felt as if he was flying through the clouds and landed lightly on the ground without any injuries. His original position had become a person. It was not Yan Qishan, but Yan Qishan. Yan Qishan threw out both of his palms, each facing the left and right directions. Bang, bang, bang. 3 muffled sounds rang out. Yan Qishan did not move at all, while Yi Tianlei and the other 2 were sent flying, but they were not injured. Obviously, Yan Qishan did not have any intention of hurting anyone. This was the power of the Grandmaster stage. Facing 3 pre-celestial martial artists, he could advance and retreat as he pleased. Stop fighting, Yan Qishan said with a dark face. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang only wanted to save Tang Zheng and did not want to continue fighting with Yan Qishan. Furthermore, this attack had already made them realize the difference between them. The Yan family had 2 Grandmaster stage experts, and this foundation was indeed something that the other families could not compare to. No wonder they were able to sit firmly on the throne of the 4 great clans. The others could not help but secretly cheer. Today's birthday banquet was truly the right thing to do. There was actually such a wonderful show, and they were lucky enough to see a Grandmaster make a move. However, Chu Mingxian did not rejoice that he had survived a calamity. Instead, he became even more furious and roared, "Elder Yan, everyone has seen everything today. It's not that I'm starting this, but Tang Zheng's accomplice trespassed into the Yan family and even cruelly killed my nephew, Xiaohui. I must make Tang Zheng and this black-clothed man pay with their lives. If you're dead, then you're dead. You still want people to pay with their lives? Hee, if I kill you, you won't be so noisy anymore?" Suddenly, a light voice came from the roof. Chapter 301. This light voice came from the roof, shocking everyone. There were so many people present and there were so many experts, yet no one noticed that there was someone above them. Everyone raised their heads at the same time and saw a person sitting on the roof beam, swinging his legs casually. This person had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He had a head full of long black hair as he looked at the people below in ridicule. Yan Patian and Yan Qishan looked at each other. This father and son pair had the highest cultivation out of all of them, and they were even in the martial ancestor realm. However, just like the others, the 2 of them did not notice any trace of this person. This made them tremble in fear. Where did such an expert come from? Yi Dingdang resisted the overwhelming pure yang energy and raised his head to look. A trace of joy flashed past his eyes. Tian Chanzi. He had actually arrived a long time ago. Tian Chanzi also saw Tang Zheng's gaze and winked at him, indicating that he should be at ease. Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief, but the others held their breaths as they looked at this stranger in bewilderment. Especially Chu Mingxian. When he heard the other party's undisguised provocation, he flew into a rage. Who are you, to actually dare to speak such arrogant words? Oh, do you think I can't kill you? Tian Chanzi asked in ridicule. This place is filled with experts. What can you do to me? Moreover, for trespassing into the Yan family, you will definitely die. Chu Mingxian had the support of the Yan family, so he was not afraid at all. Furthermore, this person had barged into the Yan family without permission, which was a great disrespect to the Yan family. Chu Mingxian believed that Yan Patian would definitely not stand by and watch. You dare to question me? You have quite the guts. Moreover, you keep saying that you want to kill Tang Zheng, so I don't mind sending you to your death first. With that said, Tian Chanzi's figure disappeared from the beam, and in the blink of an eye, another person appeared in front of Chu Mingxian. Chu Mingxian wanted to circulate his energy to resist, but he realized that he didn't have much strength to resist. A terrifying aura lingered at the bottom of his heart, causing him to be unable to resist. What's going on? Why do I have such a feeling? He turned pale with fright. There was nowhere to run. When the others saw that Chu Mingxian did not move at all and did not show any signs of resistance, they were greatly astonished. Was Chu Mingxian stupid?
Stop.
Suddenly, a heaven-shaking explosive shout sounded out. Yan Patian leaped over everyone's heads and stood in front of Chu Mingxian.
Bang.
When the two palms collided, Tian Chanzi landed steadily on the ground, but Yan Patian retreated 3 steps and crashed into Chu Mingxian's body, causing him to fall to the ground in a sorry state.
Ah.
Cries of alarm rose from all directions. Everyone felt that this scene was too inconceivable. Yan Patian, the Grandmaster, had actually taken 3 steps back, but this mysterious person had landed steadily on the ground. Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. First, there was a black-clothed man, and now there was this mysterious expert. Where the hell did these monsters come from? Father. Yan Qishan supported Yan Patian with his entire body, and his face also became gloomy. The father and son were both Grandmaster martial artists, so they could understand the terror of Tian Chanzi better than anyone else. Tian Chanzi curled his lips carelessly. The so-called 100-year-old family is nothing more than this. When the others heard this, their faces turned pale. This person really dared to boast, and did not put the Yan family in his eyes at all. Chu Mingxian had just survived a calamity and was filled with lingering fear. He finally understood that he had walked through the gates of hell. Hearing the other party's disdainful words, Chu Mingxian stood up in a sorry state and said, Elder Yan, we absolutely cannot let this person go. Yan Qishan glared at Chu Mingxian. Chu Mingxian's heartstrings trembled, and he immediately shut up. He had never seen such a look in the eyes of the Yan family's father and son, which meant that the threat of this mysterious person was extraordinary. Yan Patian took a step forward, cupped his fists and said, May I ask which expert you are, to come to my humble abode? Yan family is honored to have you here. Tian Chanzi chuckled. Don't be hypocritical. I am not interested in Yan family at all. I just heard that someone wanted my disciple's life, so I did not hesitate to make a move. As his master, of course I have to seek justice for my disciple. Disciple. May I know who my disciple is? Yan Patian asked curiously. Tian Chanzi glanced at Tang Zheng and said, Good disciple, quickly come over and let me take a look. I haven't seen you for so many days, I really miss you. Tang Zheng could not help but roll his eyes. Tian Chanzi, this guy, was taking advantage of him again. He did not admit that he was his disciple. However, in order to deceive others, he could not refute him. He could only resentfully walk over. Be good, call me master. Tian Chanzi laughed sinisterly.
Master.
Tang Zheng had no choice but to compromise. Tian Chanzi laughed out loud and grabbed Tang Zheng's wrist. He could already feel the surging pure yang energy in his body and knew what was going on. Looks like the situation is not optimistic. Nonsense. Tian Chanzi did not get angry, but patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry. With your master here, I will definitely help you vent your anger." When the others heard this, they all looked at Chu Mingxian. Without a doubt, these words were directed at Chu Mingxian. Chu Mingxuan's face instantly turned pale, and he subconsciously hid behind Yan Patian. "Am I Tang Zheng's master?" Yan Patian asked in surprise. "Of course, the guy behind you wants to deal with my disciple. Move aside, I want to teach him a lesson today." Tian Chanzi waved his hand, indicating for Yan Patian to leave. This casual attitude caused the others to feel a chill in their hearts. This person was too ferocious. He actually dared to speak to Yan Patian in such a manner. One must know that Yan Patian was an invincible existence in the capital. However, this mysterious expert obviously did not put him in his eyes. Tang Zheng actually had such a master. Wasn't this too heaven-defying? Many people looked at Tang Zheng with complicated gazes. Envy, jealousy, hatred, and so on. Today is this old man's 80th birthday, and Mingxian is a guest of the Yan family. Why don't you give me some face, and this matter will end here? Yan Patian said calmly. Tian Chanzi shrugged his shoulders, glanced at Tang Zheng, and said, "Disciple, what should we do now? My master is not handing him over." Before Tang Zheng could reply, Tian Chanzi asked and answered himself. "I know what you mean. Just now, that guy surnamed Chu wanted to kill you. If we were to let go of such a person so easily, then wouldn't we, master and disciple, lose a lot of face? In the future, anyone would dare to ride on our heads and act like a tyrant." Everyone's heart trembled. These words were too straightforward. This was not a peace talk, but a direct fight. Yan Qishan said impatiently, "This is the Yan family. My father has the final say. Furthermore, Tang Zheng is Tianlei's son-in-law. This is a misunderstanding, so please don't go too far, so as to avoid getting along with each other." Hearing that, Tian Chanzi's eyes widened, his gaze locked onto Yi Dingdang in the crowd, and patted Tang Zheng in surprise, praising, "Wow, my good disciple, you've finally understood. Haha, not bad. I've long felt that this girl from the Ye family is not bad. Now you've finally succeeded." Yi Dingdong's face flushed red when she heard that. She glanced at Tang Zheng with her beautiful eyes and thought to herself, "So, I didn't guess wrong before. He had long since harbored ill intentions towards her." Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang's expressions were a little strange. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry as they looked at Tian Chanzi. They had always respected this expert. They never thought that he would have such a side to his personality. The others looked at the Ye family with even more complicated expressions. No wonder the Ye family disregarded the Song family's face and broke off the marriage, and instead betrothed Yi Dingdang to an unknown brat. It turned out that this brat actually had such a deep background and had such a powerful master. Song Yu's expression changed slightly. She was bewildered. She had underestimated Tang Zheng too much in the past. This love rival was much more complicated than she had imagined. "Hee, my disciple is the son-in-law of the Ye family. What does it have to do with me? I'm just venting my anger for my disciple and seeking justice." Tian Chanzi continued. "Your Highness, nephew Mingxian is a guest. Forgive me for not being able to comply, but it's impossible for me to hand him over to you." Yan Patian said resolutely. Heaven Monk shrugged his shoulders indifferently. "I had already expected this result. Since you insist on going your own way, then let's have a fight. Let's see who's the real deal." "This is the real deal." "All right, since you say so, it just so happens that I haven't exercised my muscles and bones for many years. Today, please enlighten me." Yan Patian was not afraid, but instead took a step forward and stepped forward. No matter what, Yan Patian could not retreat. This was the Yan family, and with so many people watching today, if he retreated, then the reputation of the Yan family would be damaged. This was a fatal blow. In addition, he was also very curious as to where such an expert came from. If he didn't fight, how could he see through the other party's clues? Father, today is your birthday. Let me do it, Yan Qishan said without hesitation. Tian Chanzi chuckled. Are you fighting with me? Not long ago, I fought with a fool who used a sword. Today, I want to see who is stronger between you and that fool. A fool who uses a sword? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and many of the people who reacted quickly had already turned pale. Qin Lao was one of them, and he was shocked in his heart. A fool who uses a sword? Could it be that he is talking about the sword god? The sword god loves the sword like a fool, and to ordinary people, he is already a little silly. He is definitely talking about the sword god. Back then, when Old Man Qin saw Tang Zheng's heaven-flying immortal sword technique, he was shocked. Back then, he made a comparison between this sword technique and the sword god's sword technique. At that time, he even suspected that Tang Zheng was the sword god's disciple, but later on, he denied this point. This time, when he saw Tian Chanzi, he was glad that he had made the decision back then. If he had stayed in the ordinary balance back then and caused harm to Tang Zheng, then this person would definitely have appeared. Not only him, even Song Yu would not be able to leave the ordinary balance. You fought with the sword god? Yan Patian asked in bewilderment. Someone seems to call him that, Tian Chanzi said. After receiving this confirmation, everyone's heart trembled. This person was too heaven-defying. He actually exchanged blows with the elusive sword god. Chapter 302. Tian Chanzi seemed to have seen through the thoughts of the others and said, that fool was injured in the end. The sword god was defeated. In their eyes, the sword god's attainments in the martial way were even higher than Yen potions, but he was still defeated by this person. What did this mean? This meant that this person was abnormally strong. The faces of Yen Patian and his son darkened at the same time. Yan Qishan had volunteered to fight in his father's place, but now it seemed that he did not have the qualifications to do so. Although he was also a Grandmaster martial artist, he was only at the first level of the Grandmaster martial artist. Yan Patian said in a deep voice. Qishan stepped down. Since this person can injure the sword god, then I will experience his skills today. Tian Chanzi laughed and said, Good disciple, just watch for a while, I'll send him away first. I can still hold on. Tang Zheng clenched his teeth and said. Seeing that, Yi Tianlei really wanted to persuade him, but he swallowed his words back. The scene of Chu Mingxian pressuring him step by step was still vivid in his mind, causing him to be unable to persuade him. Let's let Tang Zheng's master handle this matter. I've long disliked Chu Mingxian, so I can borrow Senior's hands to teach him a lesson. Feng Xinyang advised in a low voice. Yi Tianlei sighed secretly. After such a disturbance, the capital was truly going to be in turmoil, especially since the background and strength that Tang Zheng had displayed this time was enough to attract the attention of all the powers. After this, the reputation of the Ye family will definitely rise to an unprecedented level. Feng Xinyang sighed with emotion. The Ye family had made the right move and had reaped a lot of benefits. Yi Dingdang did not have that many complicated thoughts. He only heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Since Tian Chanzi had come, then Tang Zheng would be safe. She immediately ran over to support Tang Zheng and asked with concern, How are you? Their hands were tightly clasped together. Tang Zheng's entire body trembled as a wave of pure yin energy majestically entered his body. His eyes lit up and he subconsciously tightened his grip on her hand. Yi Dingdang was overjoyed. Both of his hands held onto his hand, their fingers intertwined, as if their souls were leaning against each other. She had a strange feeling in her heart, but when she felt the high temperature of his palm, she hurriedly asked, Why is your body temperature so high? Tang Zheng took a deep breath and said, I'm fine. Although the pure yin energy of the pure yin energy, it was not enough to let him out of his predicament to the brink of the situation. But your body temperature? Tang Zheng shook his head. I'm fine. Then, He circulated his energy and quickly absorbed her pure Yin energy. Seeing that, Yi Dingdang did not ask any further. The two of them looked at Tian Chanzi at the same time, only to see Tian Chanzi ordering Huang Zing, "Protect him well, kill anyone who dares to harm him." Huang Ziang did not say anything, but stood in front of Tang Zheng without hesitation. His eyes shone with a fierce light that could captivate one's soul. The others subconsciously avoided his gaze, not daring to look him in the eye. "Come, let me see who is stronger between you and that idiot who uses a sword." Tian Chanzi took a step forward. This step was not big, but with just this step, he had closed the distance between him and Yen Patian by a few meters. Yen Potion's face darkened as he lightly punched out. This punch looked ordinary and did not have much power. But when his fist arrived in front of Tian Chanzi, bang bang bang, the air around Tian Chanzi released a series of explosive sounds, but the air turned into fists that could not be seen with the naked eye, and the vast aura caused one's heart to tremble. This was a very mysterious realm of fist techniques. It was a realm where the fist intent that burst forth resonated with the air, causing the air to also become as powerful as a fist. The air was everywhere, so the attack was naturally everywhere. Unless one was an expert of the same realm, it would be impossible to unleash such an exquisite cultivation technique. Although the others did not understand, when they saw such a scene, some of them were so scared that their faces turned pale and their legs went weak. The corner of Tian Chanzi's mouth curled up, and he also punched out. The moment he punched out, he displayed an incomparable might, and his fist seemed to have instantly grown larger. No, it was definitely not getting bigger, but the surface of his fist was emitting a faint layer of light. His palm glowed. What realm was this? Only a few people knew that this was a manifestation of a cultivation technique that had been trained to the extreme. This was the manifestation of the inner strength being released. When the inner strength was forced out of the body, there would be this kind of fist light. However, they did not know that this fist light was not caused by the release of inner strength, but by the release of innate qi. However, Tian Chanzi was good at passing off fake as real, so no one else could discover any clues. When Tian Chanzi fought with such a warrior expert, of course he would not rashly use spells. These people were all smart people. If the other party were to see through his identity as a cultivator, although Tian Chanzi was not afraid at all, it would cause trouble for Tang Zheng. Tian Chanzi was an old monster who had lived for over 1,000 years. He was the one who was truly smart, and when he considered the problem, he would not easily reveal any flaws. A fist with a fist light met the attack that was everywhere and merged into the air.
Boom.
With a loud sound, screams came from the crowd. Many people were blown away by the energy that spread out in all directions, and some even spat out blood. Yen Qishan hurriedly advised loudly, "Everyone, quickly leave the hall." Everyone stepped out bravely. They were originally prepared to watch a good show, but this was only the first move, and it had already burst forth with such terrifying power. It caused them to personally experience the danger of an expert's exchange of blows. Being a spectator was also a life-threatening situation. However, no one left. They all gathered near the entrance of the hall and stretched their necks to look at the two sides of the battle. There were only 2 people left in the hall. Even a pre-celestial martial artist like Yi Tianlei had no choice but to retreat. This punch was just an appetizer. Tian Chanzi and Yen Potion's clothes fluttered in the wind, but their bodies did not move in the slightest. "This old man is using the dragon form technique. Please enlighten me." As soon as Yen Patian finished speaking, his body actually became illusory. However, this was not a spell, but a violent fluctuation produced by the inner strength in his body, causing the surrounding air to fluctuate as well. Ripples spread out in circles, making people feel as if his body was about to disappear. Actually, he was still standing in place.
Roar.
With a furious roar that sounded like a dragon's roar, a wave of air rose into the air. His entire body turned into an angry dragon as he attacked Tian Chanzi. This scene was an eye-opener. In the eyes of many people, Yen Patian seemed to have truly turned into an angry dragon, attacking with an invincible might. Tian Chanzi formed a sword art in his hand, causing the air to vibrate, and a sword appeared in his hand. It was not a real sword, but a sword formed from innate qi, emitting a faint light. Sword qi, it's actually sword qi, and it's sword qi that has condensed into a real sword. The crowd cried out in alarm. People who practice sword arts needed a certain amount of power to cultivate sword qi, but it was not too difficult. For example, pre-celestial stage martial artists could usually unleash sword qi. However, to condense sword qi into a real sword like Tian Chanzi was simply wishful thinking. It was absolutely impossible. Many people looked at the real sword and understood that Tian Chanzi was not exaggerating when he said that he had injured the sword god. He really did have the strength to do so, and he had even used the sword that the sword god was most proud of to injure the other party. My good disciple, it seems that this sword technique is different from what you usually use. Tian Chanzi roared. Tang Zheng's heart moved, knowing that Tian Chanzi was about to use the heaven-flying immortal's sword technique. Tang Zheng had already completely learned the first move, Wind Surge, and the second move had already been mastered to the 30th move. Tian Chanzi was going to show himself. He would not let go of this rare opportunity. The others also stared at Tian Chanzi, knowing that this sword technique was not ordinary. If they could comprehend one or two of it, then they would benefit for the rest of their lives. Whoosh, the sword danced, and the air in all directions began to churn, as if it had turned into clouds and mist. Violent winds rose from the ground, howling incessantly. Wind Surge. The move Tian Chanzi used was the first move of the heaven-flying immortal's sword technique. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. He himself definitely did not have such a strong power. Tian Chanzi's move was many times stronger than his. Pa pa pa. The tables and chairs in the hall turned into dust amidst the tumbling waves of air, and then they mixed with the air and condensed on the surface of the long sword. In an instant, the long sword suddenly became 10 times larger. The sword was originally only half a meter long, but now it had become 5 meters long and incomparably wide. This is no longer the first move. This is the second move. Yes, this is the second move that I have yet to fully comprehend. Tang Zheng became excited, his eyes wide open. Roar! Yen Potion's aura had also finished accumulating, and the furious dragon that he had transformed into increased by several times. He opened his mouth and bit towards Tian Chanzi. Sword-breaking Qianjun. Tian Chanzi roared. The gigantic sword slashed down, ruthlessly slashing onto the body of the furious dragon. In that instant, time seemed to have stopped, and the air in the hall seemed to have frozen. Everyone's eyes froze at this moment, and the figures of the gigantic sword and the raging dragon were deeply imprinted in their hearts. Many people who did not know martial arts or were weak felt their minds tremble as an indescribable pressure pressed down on their hearts. Their eyes rolled back and they fainted one after another. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people had already fainted. Those who persevered were all warriors above the 8th grade of body refining stage. Yi Dingdong's face was deathly pale, her legs were trembling, but a warm power was transmitted into her body from Tang Zheng's palm, allowing her to resist the power. Some of the pre-celestial martial artists present finally realized the difference between them and the Grandmaster. There was no way to make up for this kind of gap. It was a natural moat. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact it only took an instant. The gigantic sword shattered, and the raging dragon also disintegrated. A powerful wave of air soared into the sky, and smoke and dust rose in all directions. No one could see the people in the hall clearly. Kacha, 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 a series of strange noises rang out, and before anyone could figure out what was going on, they heard a loud bang, and the large wooden building collapsed with a loud bang. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.